Hello, and welcome to Plateau TV. Once again, joined by Jay the Stingray. I think Orc is muting himself because he's got some dog troubles on his end, but he's along for the ride here today too. How you doing, Jay?
DMX is outside my
Good,
window.
good. I wish I had heard that, Orc.
Uh,
That's awesome. Perfect timing, by the way. You muted again. But I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am doing pretty good. So this week we're going to be talking about the newest installment of Twin Peaks, Part 6. The description for the episode was "Don't Die," and then we're also going to be talking about Breaking Bad. We're kind of like Christopher Nolan around here. We don't leave anything on the table. I thought about, should we build up to an episode where we talk about something like Breaking Bad? But I mean, if we want to talk about it, like that's what interests us. That's going to get our attention. Why not do it? So I'm actually really enthusiastic to get into that with you guys. What have you been watching lately, Jay?
Lately I got caught up on Silicon Valley. I was like 3 episodes back, and really enjoying that show. It's a good season.
Haley Joel Osment is in a shocking transformation is on that show now.
Yeah, I wonder if when he was approached for that role or whatever, if he tried out whatever, I wonder if he said, "Hey, can I keep my beard? Is it okay if I keep my beard?" You're like, sure.
I think I was reading something about his appearance on the show, and he was basically saying, like, when he was a kid, just the way he looked and he was younger, like he could only get certain kinds of role. Like they wouldn't even consider him for other things. And so the Silicon Valley role was interesting to him because, he looks like a big bum and he's kind of like a chubby dude now.
Yeah.
So he kind of got to play something that's not, at all what people know of him.
Yeah.
So I think he's hilarious, and I think the run up to the end of the season has been pretty good.
Yeah, I love when Ehrlich, he wasn't familiar with who he was.
Yeah,
he calls him like a fat baby or something. I forget. He calls him something really really funny.
What they're doing with his character, I think, I'm sort of, now that we know that he's leaving, that T.J. Miller is leaving Silicon Valley, I kind of keep wondering. The character is sort of like I legitimately wonder, just because the show being the way that it is, like, is he gonna like kill himself at the end of the season? Like, it seems like that could be a legitimate plot on this show. I mean, Peter Gregory, the actual actor, died, and they sort of made a joke about his death. Yeah. But I mean, the Bachman character has been kind of driving off a cliff here.
Yeah, I would really miss him too. I don't know. They probably just need to go and call it quits after this season.
Well, that was just the thing is. It was either the day after he announced that he was leaving or maybe the day before. The timing was weird, but they announced there's going to be a season 5. Like, so we know there's going to be at least one more season, but Bachman, at least in a series regular capacity, is not going to be on it. And I'm with you, his character is so dominant. And actually he gets so many laughs too.
Yeah.
You sort of wonder who's going to pick up from him. I think they'd probably have to have the other characters step up, or heck, maybe Haley Joel Osment can join the cast. It almost kind of seems to me like they're maybe positioning it for something like that.
Yeah, he's kind of fitting that fool type role, the slapsticky guy.
Yeah.
But I love all the characters in that show, man. Richard, what is the actor's name that plays him?
I forget who plays Richard. He played Dwight's brother on The Office, the one episode where we saw him.
Yes, he was all distinguished.
He was, well, no, remember he sold pot.
Oh,
he was the not that you can't be distinguished and sell pot, but he appeared in the episode of The Office in the last season that was a backdoor pilot for the Dwight spinoff that the network had been planning, but they ultimately decided not to do. Which, thank God, because I don't think. And again, spoilers if you haven't seen The Office, but I don't know that Dwight would have married Angela at the end of The Office if they went ahead with the spinoff. I don't know that she would have been on it. And that's kind of annoying to me in other ways, but Yeah,
I
so
know
he was
we're
on that.
already going down a rabbit hole here. But,
Well, this is this is
All
what
right,
we
talking about
uh,
spin-off comedies, I'm not really the biggest fan of, The Office or Arrested Development, but like Curb Your Enthusiasm is awesome.
Oh man,
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit last week.
All right, I was just going
like
down a
The
bit
Office,
the road,
yeah.
veering off where Jay was going. Sorry.
No. It's
Oh, man, The
and
Office,
Arrested
man.
Development is. I'm sorry, not Arrested Development. Although it is coming back. Curb Your Enthusiasm's coming back too.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
well.
think it's unclear when, but I think Larry David confirmed he's working on it.
I know this is a very unpopular opinion, but I could actually probably marathon all of The Office over like a few weeks period. All the episodes they have on Netflix because it's obviously done now, at least the US version.
Yeah.
But I can honestly watch any comedy that doesn't have a laugh track. Now, there's a lot of big comedies, throughout history, and now there's like The Ranch on Netflix with Ashton Kutcher, and then the guy who's been in a lot of like Law and Order shows or like courtroom drama type shows.
Yeah.
He's the older guy, but if it has a laugh track, it just immediately just kills it for me. I'm
You're
just
not
like,
a big
wait.
sitcom fan then.
no, not at all.
It's funny. I've been
Sorry.
I've been rewatching Cheers, so I've been doing like the sort of the opposite. Is I'm like on Cheers season 3 now. We're about halfway through that, and I am actually kind of shocked at how funny it is. I've seen episodes of Cheers here and there, and I even remember when I was a lot younger seeing it when it was live. Like my parents watched Cheers, and I remember watching the last episode with them when it aired. Like I have specific memories of that. But
in Boston, they have a Cheers restaurant, and you can go and eat, and it's like not insanely overpriced. I went there one time; it was pretty cool. But all the characters have like their own like stuff named after them and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
Get the Norm Burger.
The Boston.
Get the
I bet that's a big old burger. Beer battered.
Yeah. But yeah, you should check out Silicon Valley when you get a chance.
So the Silicon Valley is one I've been looking at, and then what's funny about Showtime, whether you use their app or you have it on your TV or you get it through various other places like Amazon, is a lot of their movies and especially a lot of their TV shows are on Netflix because I guess they just have a lot of the rights and stuff currently. Netflix,
they have they have a bit of a deal between the two. Yeah.
But two that aren't on there that are interesting to me are Homeland, which was a huge hit. That's why there's so many seasons, and then Billions is a new one. And since I'm like broke half the time, but I like the way how billionaires live their lives and stuff. Even though it's obviously a TV show, I want to kind of check that one out because I guess it's two guys going at each other's throats the whole time, from what I hear anyway.
Well, it's Paul Giamatti and oh God, I can't. I want to call him. I always want to call him after his
Jonesy from the Stephen King, right?
Oh God, he was in that. No, I always think of him as Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers, yeah, I know what you're talking
Winters.
about.
Or I guess yeah.
That's the first thing I saw him in, Dreamcatcher. Jonesy.
Yeah.
He's awesome in Homeland, which I haven't seen all of Homeland. I've only seen like the first 3 or 4 seasons.
So I watched seasons 1 through 3 of Homeland. Like we like devoured them. And then when we got to season 4, after pretty big events at the end of season 3, some characters gone. I'll try and be vague about that. I think we sort of stopped. I think we stopped the one where like Carrie thinks about like drowning her baby. We had a young baby at the time, and so I think it just hit me the wrong way.
I didn't know Carrie had a baby, so that shows how far along.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. Well, a baby.
Oh, now my whole summer's ruined. Thanks, Bruce. Dick. No, I was kidding.
But it went down some kind of depressing avenues, and whatever. I forget what was going on, but I was like, I can't watch this right now. This is not kind of fun and exciting and interesting. It's kind of just depressing me and making me sad, and I'm not really in the mood for that. So I need to get back into Homeland. But similarly, I only made it through like the first, it's like so 3.5 seasons, maybe not even that far.
Yeah, watching Claire Danes cry kind of got old after a little while.
Did you ever see the SNL skit with Anne Hathaway about that?
I don't think so.
They did, and try and dig that one up. There's an SNL skit of Anne Hathaway. Basically, it's a Homeland skit, but it was Anne Hathaway was the guest, and she played the Claire Danes character, and she specifically did like a cry, and it was just she made like a very very funny face, and like she had like her bottom lip like trembling, and she they really played up like the hurt that she's crazy angle, and it was very very good. I was a fan of that one. But
I mean, I love Claire Danes, but that's I don't know. It got a little old to me, but I get it. She has psychological problems.
in summary, yeah, she's nuts. So why don't we take the opportunity, since we're on the Showtime topic, why don't we take the opportunity to segue over to Twin Peaks?
Sure.
Again, aired this past Sunday. And actually some pretty major events happened, both in terms of this installment, but also just in terms of like the overall Twin Peaks story. And so rather than try and address the episode in total or like look at it like it's an episode of TV, because it's not, it's one part of a giant movie, I think it's probably beneficial to try and talk about where the different stories and character threads, were in this episode and take it from there. And so
spoilers are coming, guys.
Yeah, spoilers are coming. If you haven't seen Twin Peaks Part 6, please, turn this off, go watch that, and then feel free to watch it again.
Or if you're trying to get one on your car, view in later.
Yeah. So kind of, obviously the major story in these parts has been the Cooper Dougie storyline, where Cooper is still sort of in this oddly, like he's had a stroke state. But some interesting things happened for him. I just, right off the top of my head, his wife discovered he was Dougie's wife discovered that Dougie was fooling around on her. But also he had a little bit more activity in this episode. Like he was able to like look at paperwork and make funny drawings on them that later his manager at the insurance company seemed to understand what he was getting at. I couldn't make heads or tails.
Okay. I was going to ask you if you understood what was going on there. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we're meant to. I mean, the boss clearly did, but essentially, more funny lights are kind of guiding Cooper to help him and help him understand things. But he drew like a 5-year-old, got not even like a 3-year-old on these insurance documents, and at first it seemed like his manager was going to yell at him, but he seemed to kind of get that he found some sort of pattern among all the cases. But perhaps more significantly was there was a brief vision of the Black Lodge and the one-armed man kind of imploring him to wake up and telling him not to die, which is what the episode was named after. Don't die, which he says, don't die, which is, I think, generally good advice for anybody. But
he was drawing pictures of a ladder and stairs. So I'm guessing it's almost like he was describing how he escaped from the lodge. It's kind of the way I interpreted that.
It's funny. It kind of looked that way. I think, it looked that way. But I think in terms of whatever we're going to discover. And again, I'm not sure how interested people even are in the insurance fraud plot. I confess my interest is waning in that. Well, I kind of want things to just move along, but he clearly found some pattern among the various case files. Like there's something that happened to all these people that's related in some way. Or maybe it's him calling out the character he called a liar last week.
This is, we've discussed that. I think we're pretty much confirmed now that this is 2003, or this is not present day.
Well, I don't know that it's confirmed, and I don't even know that it's 2003. There have been people who've said that the 03 on the license plate was actually supposed to be for March, so it represents the month and not the year. But there are others who think that perhaps we're in like 2006, or maybe during like the housing crisis of the late 20. So I think that's still in play. I don't know that we know that's true or not.
I was thinking maybe that was something to what Dougie's boss was finding there, something to do with maybe the crash of the housing market.
Oh, that's interesting. Like he's seeing it develop. Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
if that turns out, that'd be an interesting development that he kind of sees that coming. But that was pretty much Cooper's development in that episode. And, call me out, Jay, if I'm forgetting something, but that, again, it took up a lot of time in the episode, but I mean, those are the major developments. The other development, and actually a pretty cool one, I have Janie E kind of listed out as a separate plot because she and Dougie were together, but then she has her own story where she essentially goes off to pay off the people that are chasing down Dougie, one of which is Dickie Bennett from from Justified. So a little connection with last week. I knew he was in this new season of Twin Peaks, but I forgot all about it until he walked up and he had the crazy. I mean, literally, he looked like he was Dickie Bennett. Like
he's rocking that mullet, man. I love it.
Yeah, he does it well. I think it's fascinating that I enjoy that. God, what's that actor's name? I can't think of it now. Maybe one of you guys can dig it up while we're talking about it. But I remember after like Saving Private Ryan, he's the character that lets his comrade essentially get killed by the Russian. Like he could have helped, and then the Russian kills that guy in that agonizing scene where he stabs him like really, really slowly.
Oh, because he's too scared and he's got the bolts around his neck?
Yeah,
I don't know the actor's name.
Oh,
yeah.
Jeremy Davies.
Jeremy Davis.
There we go. Just thought of it. Jeremy, again, I feel like now, but ever since he's been on Justified, and even he was on Lost, I love that actor. And I think the characters he plays are great. And so he had hardly any role, and I think it's questionable whether we'll even see him again. But it was a great story because Janie E basically faces off with these guys, and they didn't seem particularly threatening once things got going. But it seemed like it could have gone that way. But she basically told him to fuck off and gave him like half of what they were asking for and told him just to sit with it. And I don't know. Good Naomi Watts, I thought, rocked that scene. That was a good episode for her.
And what they say, like, man, that's a tough broad or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, clearly she wears the pants in the Dougie family. That's and actually, by the way, one thing we did see, and I didn't note it on my list, but it just occurred to me is there had been a lot of talk among all the Twin Peaks geeks that, and of course I say that lovingly, I'm one of them, but that, where Cooper is, where Dougie is, that maybe this isn't even real. Maybe it's a dream. Maybe it's not reality or something. And one of the reasons they were indicating this is that the kids don't talk. So like Dougie's son, Sonny Jim, he hadn't said anything. This episode, he finally did, which I think maybe throws that theory out. I don't know. But, the little boy from across the street where the car blew up in the last part, he still hasn't spoken as far as I know. But it was good to hear his son actually have dialogue.
Well, and the drug addict lady was saying 119.
Yeah.
So that's more backward stuff. I'm sure Cameron has a theory about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, there's something about the red balloons that are everywhere. Something's up at Rancho Rosa. Like, I don't know what it is, but that there's something wonky about that community. But
can I get a real talk?
Real talk.
Sure.
Real talk. Okay. Since Cameron likes a lot of numbers and stuff like that, does he like the number 23 with Jim Carrey?
I don't. He may very well. I don't know that Cameron likes numbers. I think it's just more that Twin Peaks has been throwing, like, since the first installment, they're throwing a whole bunch of numbers at us. Like, the first thing you see in when it first premieres is the giant telling Cooper was, I think, 315, 315, where he said, and maybe another number. And then ever since then, like, we keep getting different characters say different numbers. There's numbers on screen. And so I think Cameron is just kind of cataloging them in the hopes that they mean something.
So is this what happens when you're a master director like Lynch and you just get drunk and you're writing a script and you just open up a phone book? I
think he's trolling everybody, I think is what he's doing.
I do. I mean, he's definitely subverted expectations. I mean, it just, and again, this is nothing new. I'm not breaking new ground with this assessment, but I mean, very much it's like, did Dale Cooper's trapped in the Black Lodge. Will he get out? It's like, okay, he got out of the Black Lodge, but he's just going to be a drooling, like, nincompoop for, like, the first 8 damn parts of this thing. So it's like, you got Cooper, but he's, you only got, like, 10% of him.
I mean, I love I don't know what you would call that character, but, I love him, but I want Cooper back. I want the wisecracking Cooper back.
Oh God! Like, this episode, especially when the one-armed man, when Gerard is basically saying "wake up," I was sort of hoping he would like that would trigger it. He was like, dude, well, because and first off, one thing, and we've talked already before, like the fantastic job that Kyle MacLachlan's doing, but his acting, I have to as much as we're complaining about it, I have to commend it, because in the scene with the giant and in the scenes with the Red Room, you know, he said very little, but that was our Cooper. That was Dale Cooper, special agent of the FBI, you know, investigative badass. And what I think is so interesting about it, and just a testament to Kyle MacLachlan, is he did all that with his face and his eyes. Yeah. Merely his expression. You know, this was a Cooper like ingesting information, you know, seeing things and reacting to it, you know, and you just see it all in his face. Now that he's, you know, quote unquote Dougie, he's got this blank stare. It very much feels like an entirely different character. Again, it's Kyle MacLachlan. We see that much, but it really does feel like it's someone else entirely. I mean, he's done a fantastic job. But again, all that said, bravo. Let's get back to sleuthing. Let's start figuring some stuff out here.
All right, so I'm a noob to that TV show. I've only seen like 2 episodes, if I remember correctly. Does Cooper still eating a lot of tasty pastries and like donuts and stuff?
So far he hasn't been. Wow. But it's he's been drinking coffee, but he's been
Have they opened up a bag of Ruffles yet or anything?
Well, he's not he's not fully Cooper yet is the thing. And so like when he found coffee, I think a lot of people were hoping like when someone first gave him coffee that kind of almost like, you know, Popeye eating his spinach, he'd wake up and be our Cooper. I was praying for that. It didn't turn out that way. But instead, it's more like he's like a baby chick or something. Like when he gets a hold of the coffee, he just like nuzzles the cup and just, you know, drinks the whole thing.
What do I do, Mr. Lynch? I want you to nibble on the coffee cup now. Okay, sir.
But actually, big development, big development. And again, it's hardly much to talk about because nothing really happened except that Albert a couple of parts ago had indicated that they needed to go find someone who could take a look at Evil Cooper. He doesn't know it's Evil Cooper, but they know something's wrong with him. And they said, I know where she drinks. A lot of people wondered, is this Audrey? Is this maybe Sarah Palmer? Or could it be Diane of Cooper's tapes that he's always, you know, talking into his tape recorder? And it was after what? It's been 27 years. Probably, I think 28 years, because if you count first season, go all the way back to the beginning. You know, I think people wondered, was Diane actually a real person, or was she some sort of figment of Cooper's imagination? No, she's real, and she is rocking the platinum blonde wig, and you know,
Laura Dern.
Laura. Yeah, sorry, thank you. Important information. Yeah, Laura Dern. Is Diane, which I think a lot of people assumed, but we didn't know that. And again, since Lynch kept everything so close to the vest, how could you know? But she literally appeared to, I think, just say, "Hello, Albert." That was all she said. But it was Diane, and we saw her. And she's, you know, smoking a cigarette, looking pretty hot, like Laura Dern does. And you know, hopefully we'll get more with her in the next part.
You know, I love this. This is just like Lynch fans are just loving this up, man. Because, you know, Laura Dern's, you know, obviously big, you know.
I know people like
probably good friends with David Lynch, I would imagine.
They wait all week, and then on that Sunday night, I just let everything go.
Well, it's, you know, she's been a longtime contributor with David Lynch, and there were even rumors back when the original seasons were on that Diane would be introduced and Laura Dern would play her. But back then, as you may recall, and I mean, it's even, you know, some actors I think still think this way. They have a thought process similar to Cole, I think. And I'm not trying to throw shade on Cole, but you know, there were thoughts that Laura Dern wouldn't do it because Laura Dern was a movie actress. She wouldn't do TV. You know, clearly a lot's changed in you know 27 years, and so you know, TV's where you go for all the great, you know, experimental, really good shows. And so here she is, reunited with David Lynch and playing an iconic character. So I can't wait to get a lot more out of that.
I'm just looking at her career, man. She was really blowing up, like right around Twin Peaks season 1 and 2. So
yeah,
you know,
she could have just been too busy. Yeah.
Yeah, as I mean, like '93 was Jurassic Park. You know, they probably took 2 or 3 years to film that. So
Yeah.
I would imagine she was probably tied down for quite a while just doing that.
Yeah. So the other major plot, and it kind of intersects with a few different plots, but there is the, for lack of a better description, the asshole that was in the Double R Diner. I'm sorry, that was in the Roadhouse, that was sexually assaulting the girl who's friends with Jane Levy, who, by the way, and I recognize that this is hardly analytical or anything, but I think Jane Levy's hot. I got a thing for redheads, and I'm hoping to see more from her. Her
Hang on, we're
participation in
going
the series.
Orcs Corner, down the road, left turn. Here we go. Have you
Yeah.
seen Bordello of Blood?
Bordello of Blood? I mean, with
The redhead.
wait, isn't Dennis Miller in that movie?
Yes, he is. And
The
isn't
vampire,
Corey
the
Feldman in it too?
I don't know. I saw that. I've seen the movie like once. It was a long time ago.
I know
I remember
Erica,
Dennis Miller, but
Oh no.
Erica Laniak or whatever her name is his Corey Feldman's sister.
oh, Erica Leniak's not bad.
Where
in
does
any
she rank
case-
on your redhead spectrum?
Yeah, no.
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought
Angie
she was a
Everhart.
blonde. Oh, Angie Everhart. Yes.
I saw that film like on like Comedy Central or something in like 98, 99, and I was like, okay, this is what I need to strive to obtain in my life. No, I'm just kidding.
But anyway, the asshole from who assaulted the girl in the Roadhouse, we are getting a little bit more backstory on him. He is tied up in the drug trade in Twin Peaks, and he's working with the dude that was given the finger guns to Shelley in the Roadhouse all the way back in part 2.
Okay.
That guy Red. And Red seems to be kind of, well, I don't know whether he's the big wig, but he's definitely higher up the drug food chain than Richard Horn, which is what we know his name is. He's related to the Horns in some way, and we still don't know how.
He's
But
also
in
a
any
wizard.
case, yes, and that's the thing. Red appeared, like, again, he was sort of very threatening in this very odd way, but then all of a sudden he did this weird like flip of a coin, and somehow the coin appeared in Richard's mouth, but then all of a sudden it was back in his hand. So like I don't know if this dude, like I don't know if this is just Lynch being weird or if this Red guy is going to somehow be tied up in the mysteries of the forest, but yeah, definitely some creepy, chilling stuff there. But that sequence kind of sets in motion some things that tie into other stories throughout the episode. So we finally get our first look at Carl Rod from and God, losing the actors' names is killing me. Help me out here, Jay.
You're not talking about Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry
are you?
Dean Stanton. Thank you. I don't know. We
Oh.
get talking about this stuff, and I get running. Harry Dean
Yeah,
Stanton
see,
reprising his role from Fire Walk with Me at the Fat Trout Trailer Park. He appears in this episode. We also get the first mention of a character named Linda, which, again, going back to the first part, the giant told Cooper Richard and Linda. So we've met Richard Horn. If this is, again, there could be multiple people, I suppose. I hope not, but we've met him, and he's an asshole. And Linda is perhaps handicapped in some way, or she was a soldier because she needs a wheelchair.
Mhm.
But Carl Rod comes on the scene and has quite a very peaceful, seemingly peaceful, serene scene, just enjoying his morning coffee. And then Richard, who was, threatened and maligned by Red, is so like angry and upset by what happened. He's, slamming the roof of his truck. He's just speeding, being a dick like he is. And he's going to blow past a stop sign where a mother and her son are very goofily kind of like running around playing a game. And the son runs into the street, and Richard just smokes the kid, like runs him right over. And so this scene to me was significant for a few reasons. One, it had a score. There was music, very Twin Peaksy, very Angelo Badalamenti music, very evocative of Fire Walk with Me, I'd say. And it was kind of evoking some of those images from the first episode of Twin Peaks overall, the pilot, when like characters are just crying left and right. Now, obviously, Laura's death is what kind of started all this, but there's always been kind of this connection in Twin Peaks about, Dante's Inferno and hell. When you read that book, the people in hell, it's not like, there's guys with pitchforks and people burning. It's people feeling just a great deal of sadness and sorrow. The people are weeping in hell. So when people start weeping in Twin Peaks, it's almost like, the door to hell has come open. And so I found that significant. Now, that's a little bit of analysis I bring to it. I don't know that's what Lynch meant. That may not be at all what's going on, but the boy died. All of the people who witnessed it happen, start crying because Carl Rod also goes to the mother crying over her son. And, it gives her just kind of a very piece of human connection. He just grabs her shoulder and they kind of share a moment. I mean, the boy's dead and he kind of comforts her. He also sees the boy's spirit or something like it float up away and into the heavens. Jay, it seems to me like there's a number of ways to interpret that scene. What did you get out of it?
Besides the obvious, I don't really know in the world of Twin Peaks what that means. Besides the obvious, soul going to heaven or whatever. Right. I just don't know. I don't know if that's going to have any, implication in the future, or I just don't know.
I think if it has any implication in the future, I think it's going to be something that starts to tie events back to Richard and the drug stuff, because like that'll get worked back.
Yeah.
But I also think it was a way of showing Carl's. It's hard to define this stuff. I don't know that David Lynch, I don't think, does it this way, but I try to use a label that helps me. Like, it seems like Carl Rod has some kind of supernatural sense. He's sensitive to it in any case. So he saw the boy's soul go away. Right. I've seen some people question whether it was the boy's soul, and if it wasn't perhaps like a manifestation of Garmin Bozia, the pain and suffering. But I don't think so, because I think it came from the boy, whereas you'd think that would come from the mom. I don't know. We're going down a rabbit hole on that one. But.
Yeah, the game they were playing was really odd. Did you find that odd, the way that played out?
I did think it was strange, but I know with my daughter I do weird things. I would never do it in the street like that. Yeah. But I don't know that I found the game itself that I don't know that it's something that I don't know that it's indicative of anything, I guess is what I mean to say. I don't know that
it's like a game of tag, but like you tag someone and you run like 5 feet away, then they run to you, and then you do it again. It was just, an odd. I don't know. I've never done anything like that with my kids.
It was a little odd.
It just felt off to me, But we are talking about Twin Peaks. I didn't know if, you guys have got me trying to analyze every damn aspect.
You took 5 steps before you tripped on the twig, and then with 3 to the 5 dimension.
Well, first off, I would say that I analyze Twin Peaks because it's the only way my brain works. It's like I watch this thing and I have to try and make some sense of it. But I would generally say, kind of just let it wash over you.
Yeah.
If you try and peel it apart, you really will go mad. That's why we watch it a few more times and you get more meaning on subsequent watches. But David Lynch is an instinctual and an emotional filmmaker. Maybe in his mind it was probably just here's the game you're playing. You run and catch him and hug him, and then you run away and then you hug him. It could have just been as simple as that was just the game he thought the mother and son would be playing, and it means nothing more than that.
Yeah.
I would note, and this is just quasi-interesting, the actress who played the mom is actress Lisa Coronado. When I attended, I don't know whether I talked about this with you guys, but I attended a Twin Peaks event the weekend before the show came back in May. Where there was a scavenger hunt, and then the town of Snoqualmie hosted a viewing of Fire Walk with Me down at the sheriff's station and the old mill site. There were a couple of Twin Peaks people there, one of which was Lisa Coronado. And at the time, I didn't know her, and I knew she wouldn't really answer any of my questions about anything. So I saw her, and I was, I walked past her table and whatever, but I didn't really, I didn't talk to her or anything.
So that was her only appearance in the show, right? It was just basically that one episode.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
arguably she could appear again because I mean, the police are
Right,
probably
right.
going to investigate this. But in fact, they'll probably put old Andy on the case for this one. You got to put your best. Um, but yeah, so I mean, again, I feel like there's a lot of meaning to be eked out of that scene, but I don't know that it's like mystery meaning. I think it's
Yeah.
just emotional meaning, and also to showcase that Carl sees the world differently than we do. Interspliced with that scene was a scene at the Double R Diner too, by the way. And I kept expecting that the person who was going to die, because I knew someone was going to die. Like you just knew that was coming. The way that lunatic was driving the truck I thought it was going to be the girl that Heidi of Twin Peaks, the pilot fame, the kind of fat German girl who giggles, was having a conversation with I think a teacher in a booth at the Double R Diner, and had some conversations with Shelley. And then she left, and it didn't really seem to mean anything except that girl saw Richard Horne drive away. She saw his face. Like very clearly,
okay.
they looked at each other. So obviously clearly that's going to come back in some way. I mean, I don't know if he's going to try and kill her, or if she's just a witness and she's a dangling threat out there that she can identify him.
Okay, wait, hang on. I get your plot twist here. She was a fat German girl?
She was not. She was talking to a portly German girl who is from the original Twin Peaks. She's one of the other waitresses in the Double R Diner. Her name's Heidi. But this girl is not Heidi. This was someone Heidi was talking to.
Oh, okay. Well, did that lady say, "Would you like some bratwurst?" If she said, or no?
She likes pie. She's quite a fan of pie.
That's true. I think she's eating like multiple pieces of cherry pie. So even though Cooper's not eating
cherry pie.
Yeah.
I was going to mention a couple of things here.
Sure.
I did like the contrast of Richard's character to the previous episode, the way it kind of left it, where he was basically assaulting another young lady.
Yeah.
Saying all sorts of vulgar things and stuff, and really, dominant character. And this one is like completely the opposite. He was, basically throwing a temper tantrum in the car.
Yeah.
Which caused him to run over the child. But yeah, I don't know if that's spawned by his cocaine addiction or what. But yeah, I really liked that. He was such a dominant character in that his first appearance.
Well, he's low man on the totem pole among these people he's working with. So when he's just by himself, he thinks he's some badass. But really, the people he's working with are the dangerous ones. Well, I mean, again, he just killed a kid, but
I can't relate to that, obviously. But being the badass who goes into work, like I don't know, like I used to work at McDonald's, and I'd like be pretty awesome, like at home, and around friends. But I'd walk in, and then like people would be like, can I have a Big Mac with some fries? I'm like, okay. I'm like, you're stupid. Can I talk to your manager? I'm like, all right, fine. That may or may not have happened. Okay, go down the correct path. There we go.
I'm trying to think. So, is there anything about that? Again, so the Cooper, I would say the Cooper stuff and that probably took up the most time in the episode. Mm-hmm. Those are kind of the two main stories touched upon, but there were two others. And I'll start first with the Las Vegas characters. So we met a character called Ike the Spike, and Ike is I think the appropriate term is a little person. He's a short fellow.
Oh, right.
And he apparently is a hitman. When we find him, he's like just playing, like he's like stabbing a table with an ice pick. But we are routed back to the gentleman the gentleman that we've met in Vegas before, played by, and I gotta look up his name. It's he was from Lost. It's Patrick something. But anyway, the gentleman who in the earlier parts of Twin Peaks had made the comment to his underling, about making payments to somebody and saying like, you don't want someone like him in your life. Well, he gets a call, or he rather, a red box appears on his computer screen, and he goes into a safe and pulls out this envelope with a black dot on it. He sends this out, and this apparently ends up with this Ike the Spike guy. He takes it, and it's got a picture of both the woman who received the call from the people who were hunting Dougie in Rancho Rosa, but also as a picture of Dougie.
Yeah.
So Ike the Spike, in a scene that was both disturbing and oddly hilarious, basically goes in and murders this woman in this really over-the-top violent scene. And I just gotta say, Jay, like that weird hip-hop song that's playing in those scenes, like it's really catchy and I can't get it out of my head.
Well, it's essentially his music, Ike the Spike's theme song, because it plays pretty much the entire time he's on screen.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit as well. You know, Lynch has a knack for being able to work humor into his extremely violent stuff. Like,
yes,
you've seen that in quite a few of his movies. Like Mulholland Drive is what came across to me.
Yeah.
When you know, the hitman was doing some killing in that one. You know, and then the my favorite part of the movie when the woman gets, something bit me bad.
Yeah.
She got shot by a fucking gun.
The guy just, sorry, we gotta take a little U-turn, but when the guy just shoots everybody in the office,
Oh man,
the fat lady, right? Like you said,
it like went through the wall, you know, or something like that. Yeah, that's my favorite part of that movie, and it's, you know, like extreme violence combined with humor, which it you wouldn't think it would work at all, but Lynch manages to pull it off. And the same thing here, you know.
Lynch and Paul Verhoeven, I think, are probably the only directors that have never been able to pull off extreme violence and humor kind of as part of the same thing. Because like RoboCop is friggin' hilarious, and it's just graphically violent and bloody too.
New question: what has the other director done? I've heard of his name, but I don't know his work.
So Paul Verhoeven, he did RoboCop. He did.
Oh, okay.
I think he did Total Recall, and I think Starship Troopers too.
Oh,
sounds right.
He's that guy. He does those kind of like brutal satire type movies. Yeah.
But yeah, he looks at his. That's a hell of an ice pick, by the way, that he has. Yeah. But he's like bent it up, and you know, apparently he's really fond of it, and he's upset.
Yeah, I felt for him there at the end of that scene that his favorite ice pick was damaged. I did. He seemed genuinely moved by its loss. And so, and again, you correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but I think the only other storyline touched upon in this installment was the Hawk storyline. And this is actually another pretty big development, because what I think happened, so Deputy Hawk, who got a call from the log lady and has been investigating, or rather going through the Laura Palmer case file again, looking for something that's missing. You know, he just is in the bathroom, washing his hands, cleaning up, and he drops some change. And similar to how David Lynch is kind of an instinctive, you know, emotional filmmaker, his characters, I mean, when you think about how Cooper solved the Laura Palmer case, you know, he didn't do it with a lot of, you know, actual like real world investigative work. It was like dreams and magic and throwing rocks at bottles. So Hawk, similarly, like he drops a coin, and it happens to be like an Indian head coin. And he looks at it, because he dropped it and it just happened to go into a particular stall, and he looks at it and he glances over and he sees that the stall was in fact manufactured by a local Native American tribe, the Nez Perce, which I would note, if you read the Secret History of Twin Peaks, which I don't know that you did, Jay, but the book that came out from Mark Frost last fall, it got into the history of the Nez Perce. And then being kind of baked into the history of Twin Peaks and the North Pacific Northwest region. But anyway, Hawk realizes there's something weird about this door. And so he starts digging, and he basically rips open the door to the stall, and he finds a bunch of papers, ripped out papers. And I believe, I think others have assumed this as well, that the papers that Hawk has found are the missing pages of Laura Palmer's diary. The ones that were ripped out. She found them ripped out in her well, no, that's actually a different set of papers. But we believe these are papers that Leland ripped out of the diary after he killed her, and were never found. But more importantly, we think these are the pages that are going to actually address what happened to Cooper. In Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, there's a scene where it's a long scene where Laura's kind of drawn into this odd dream. But towards the end of it, Annie, Heather Graham, just sort of appears in her bed with her face bloodied, kind of like it was at the closing of Twin Peaks the series, and tells her that the good Dale is trapped in the lodge and he can't get out. And she gives her name too. I think some people have like zoomed in on those papers and can see the word Annie written. So it looks like Hawk just found kind of a major clue. Now, again, we still may get another full installment or two of Dougie, drooling on himself, but at least Hawk is on the case. Hawk is figuring some stuff out, and I hope it's confirmed that's what those pages are, because that'll be a great development.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought those were, but yet again, Chad is a dick, is what I wrote down in my notes here.
Yes, thank you.
Because right after this, there's another appearance of Candy Clark scolding Sheriff Truman for whatever he has messed up this time.
Oh, well, it's about the car for her. Actually, and good catch, because you know what? I think that should count as a different story. So yeah,
not Harry Dean Stanton. Someone was saying that was going to be Harry Dean Stanton. And, that's another thing, man. I wish that had been a surprise. I wish I didn't know Harry Dean Stanton was going to be in that episode. I would have been a lot more surprised. I think someone had already.
How'd you know he was in it?
Someone said last week on, I think something Cameron did. They said, "Oh yeah, he's going to be in it." They just knew.
Oh well, hold on. We knew he was going to be in it because when David Lynch released all 217 cast members, Harry Dean Stanton was listed in that list. Yeah. Okay. Because people were pouring over that cast list to figure things out, and Harry Dean Stanton was a name that jumped out at a lot of people just kind of because, Fire Walk with Me and the show don't link together as neatly as some people like, and so kind of wondering how they were going to blend the two worlds, which actually leads me to sort of another thing that relates to that, which is I thought that the Fat Trout Trailer Park was in the southwest part of Washington, not just up the road from Twin Peaks. So that threw me a little bit. Again, I don't know that it's going to bother me that much. I mean, again, Twin Peaks to me isn't like Lost, where like, you need to have like neat little answers to a lot of things. I'm kind of okay with them taking some liberties, I think. I'm sort of along for the ride. Well, but it did kind of bug me at first when I noticed that.
Do we know how far away it is? I mean, we know it's a little bit of a drive.
Well, so Twin Peaks is supposed to be only 3 or 4 miles from the Canadian border in like the northeast part of Washington, whereas Deer Meadow, which is where I thought the Fat Trout Trailer Park is supposed to be in the southwest part of Washington. So pretty much opposite ends of the state, as I understand it. But again, clearly Lynch and Frost are playing with the geography a little bit.
So not a 45-minute car ride away.
And right next to that location is Camp Crystal Lake. All goes back to Friday the 13th every time. Yeah,
it is. We got to bring it's true.
Yep.
I'm glad you brought that up, Warwick. We got to bring it
up. Just once. Sorry, I had to.
Just once. But again, that's a minor quibble. But all in all, I thought it was a solid installment, and definitely glad to see Hawk find those pages. I mean, I could be wrong about those pages, but I mean, I think, again, the one image I saw seemed pretty clear that Annie was written on the page, although it was blown up and, it was kind of distorted, so you never know. But part of what is fueling that theory, too, is that over the years in different interviews, Lynch has made reference to that. So there's an interview like from all the way back in like 96 or 97. Maybe someone can fact check me on this, but I think someone was asking Lynch a question about Fire Walk with Me in Twin Peaks, and he essentially said, again, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he's like, hey, I don't usually like to talk about this kind of stuff, but, I believe that Laura wrote down what she experienced in her dream. And remember, those pages are ripped out of her diary. So maybe in a season 3 of Twin Peaks, someone might have found those pages to give them the clue about what happened to Coop. And I think that, I think this is coming true. Like, I think he didn't ever forget that particular idea, and that's what those pages are going to be.
I'm glad you shine a little bit of light onto that, because I didn't pause it or zoom in or anything like that. I was just, going to ask you what you thought those pages were.
That's my theory, and I think that's the popular theory going around.
Sure. I enjoy this show a lot more when I'm just watching it. You know, like you said, let it wash over you than I do when I'm trying to analyze it constantly. But it's so many theories going around right now, you know.
That was why when the first night, and I don't like. I think Cameron probably has like a notebook or something with him. I try not to do that. Yeah. I think when I watch it again and I turn on like closed captioning, I think I'm a little more analytical. But like the first night I watched it, I basically just sat down and let it wash over me. Like the whole thing hit me. I just focused on it. I turned off my phone. Like we turned the lights down. I think like this week and the previous week, I don't know that I was quite as formal about it, but I'm still not writing things down. I kind of just let it hit me. It's only upon, like you say, we start thinking about it that you start to kind of piece these things together. And frankly, I think that's kind of how they want it to be. Mm-hmm. Mark Frost is kind of on record saying he doesn't really like the binge watching culture. I think that's ironic because I think binge watching is one of the reasons why Twin Peaks is back. Because you could binge watch it on Netflix or on Hulu or on Amazon, and it developed a whole new fan base of people, and they did it by binge watching it.
Right.
But regardless, their whole idea is that you should watch week to week, think about it, let it marinate with you, and that's what we do. We talk about it here. There's other you just sometimes think about it after you watch it. I'm enjoying it. I am becoming a little impatient with the Coop stuff. Like I figured they were going to play this game. And listen, this is Lynch's MO. This is just taken to like the nth degree because, you think about the final episode of season 2 of Twin Peaks. Agent Dale Cooper has entered the Black Lodge in pursuit of his arch nemesis, Wyndham Earl, to save his love. And what is the next scene we get? A doddering old bank guy like shuffling very slowly from place to place in the bank. And all like from this extreme angle, and like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, like, I want to go back to what happened to Coop. So this is sort of just like David Lynch Unleashed, right? It's like, okay, you want Cooper back? Well, damn it, you're gonna wait until I'm ready to give him to you.
We may never get him back.
God, don't even. I think that's certainly. Sadly, I think that's plausible. The thing is, we know we're going to get him back because in some of the similar. So the reason I brought up, I'm glad you mentioned that because it actually connects to something I didn't actually finish. The reason I brought up Kyle MacLachlan's facial acting, all the work he does with his face and his eyes, both as Coop in the black and white scene in the beginning, and then the Black Lodge, and then as Dougie, is. I think we recognize Cooper's face from Dougie's face. And in the brief kind of teaser we had of the show before the new season, the new episode started, we've this of Cooper. It's very clearly Cooper. Like this is someone who's not, bumbling around like pissing his pants. This is Cooper we're looking at. And so I don't know if those brief shots are from the last damn episode, but we're gonna get Cooper back at some point.
He's learning so slowly, man. It's like he's finally got to the point where I think he knows to go use the restroom. I hope he's there.
Think of the ludicrousness of what you just said. Our hero character might be capable of using the bathroom on his own now. We think that's true. There's a part of me that he was stuck in the Black Lodge for 25 years in this kind of slow moving, backwards talking world. And I think there's something to be said for if he re-enters our world where it's quote unquote normal speed and everything, that there's kind of a translation error and that he would need some time to acclimate. I did not think it would take. Well, again, he still hasn't come back, but I didn't know that we'd be spending so far, 3 parts, 3 installments with, potentially more to come of him doing this. And it's fair to say too, a lot of what's going on in Vegas. I mean, what the hell did his manager at the insurance company find? I feel like they're trying to give us this mystery in Las Vegas, and I'm kind of interested in what it is, but I mean, God. We're sort of unspooling a lot of thread here, and I'm getting a little worried about whether or not we're going to be able to gather it back up into a ball.
Yeah, I agree. And we do have what are we on? We have 12 more episodes.
Yes. And so something, I forget if Cameron mentioned it on his show or maybe he posted it on Facebook. Maybe it wasn't Cameron and I'm stealing from someone else. Someone brought up the idea that when these new Twin Peaks episodes were announced, there were 9 episodes. It was going to be 9 episodes to close everything out. Then they wrote the script, and then Lynch was like, hold on, now we can't do it in 9, and then the whole budget thing, and then we came back and we had 18. Cameron has a theory that, one is potentially bad, one is potentially good. One is that really David Lynch only had enough material for 9 episodes, but because he wants to have these long rambling shots and do things in a very David Lynch way, he couldn't waste 4 installments on Dougie drooling in his coffee if he only had 9 parts. Like, he'd have to pretty much get right to the point. And I don't know if he was interested in doing that. So that's one theory. The other theory is that the 9 parts were really the meat of the story. And that what we're getting here is perhaps, think of it almost like a prequel. This is all kind of underpinning, like, structural, fundamental stuff that, like, rather than have to just kind of quickly get through it in sort of an early, just kind of gloss over it, they can fully give us this background. I'm not sure, as it stands, that this background is worth all the trouble. And again, I don't know which of Cameron's theories, if any of them, or whoever that was, if that's accurate, but that's something I've heard. And I think it feels like it could be plausible given what we've seen.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't know, man. I guess we don't know. We won't know until the show's over.
Yeah. But, the one thing that's good about it is I actually feel like this is a show that's going to really invite rewatching, because once you've seen it all, going back to the beginning and rewatching it, I think is going to be very rewarding. Like, you're going to see how, Dr. Amp's golden shovel saves Cooper in the Black Lodge in the final part, right?
Mm-hmm.
He smacked the Doppel Cooper with it.
Something.
So it's all gonna connect. But any final thoughts on any questions or final thoughts on the installment there, Jay?
Well, I guess we've got a confirmation that it's going to be the Roadhouse song at the end is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Continuing throughout the show. I hope that there's a way to watch that without having the Roadhouse stuff, like, just so it'll continue into the next episode, because, it's like I've seen some articles going around that, it's meant to be one big film, which seems odd to me because it's like 18 hours long.
Right.
But, it's meant to be watched like that, I would imagine. I don't know. But it goes against what Frost said with binge watching, so I don't know.
It's a good... I mean, again, I wonder if they'll come out with some sort of super Blu-ray set that you can. It's basically 18 hours long. You can just, if you want to sit down and devote 18 hours of your day to, like, that would, God, if Quentin Tarantino could never release the giant version of Kill Bill, I don't know that's plausible, but it's an interesting point, because Cameron mentioned that too. I wasn't able to watch the first 2 parts strung together as a movie on Showtime. I had to I had to put my kid to bed and some other things.
Right.
So I watched the parts through the Showtime app. And when you do that, part 1 ends with that kind of scene of the giant sort of, again, listening to the sounds from the speaker. But if you just watched it, it didn't have that. It was all like one big movie, and then it ended with the Chromatics singing that other song that I can't quite get out of my head. I've watched that video on YouTube a lot. It's fair. I don't know. Like, it's fun. I almost feel myself like hoping we don't go to the Roadhouse. Like, it's sort of like, oh man, if we get to the Roadhouse, it means it's over.
Yeah,
it's like a warning sign that you're. That's why when the episode that Richard Horn showed up, it was kind of like, oh man, it's over. I feel like there's still more to go, and then there was. So it was a bit of a fake out. So I wonder if they might play with our expectations on that.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
It would be odd if he didn't do that. So.
Yeah, based on what we've seen.
That was a great song at the end. I really enjoyed that one as well.
Yeah. So, any lingering thoughts about this installment, Jay?
I don't think so.
Open questions, maybe?
My opinion is this is not present day, or where Rancho Rosa is not present day, or
You
is
think
some
that's a
sort of
different-
alternate reality, or
Right.
something's going on there. And because I mean, the first thing that jumped out to me was Dougie's wife. She uses the telephone, the actual wired telephone.
Right.
And I mean, do you have a telephone, like a landline?
Ever since I moved in with my now wife, we've only ever had our cell phones. My parents still have a landline.
So
I
so
do,
do mine.
sadly. Yeah. Yeah.
Mine do too, but that's more of a testament to their, I guess, reliance on it's some sort of a safety blanket, I think, and they're probably in their mind. But yeah, I don't have one, and I'm almost 40 years old.
That's something in that phone conversation, and I wish that is actually something I wish I'd written down. The way Janie E said something in that phone conversation, or maybe it was when she was facing off with Dewey Crow, but not Dewey Crow, Dickie Bennett, but she used a turn of phrase that I remember my wife and I looked at each other, because it's not a turn of phrase I've ever heard. It's like taking a turn of phrase that would be used, but it wasn't quite right. It was used wrong. And it made me think, like, is this more evidence that this is not real, or this is some kind of a... Sorry, I see the cat jerking in the background. And again, I need to rewatch it. But do you remember what I'm talking about? Do you have a recollection of that?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I've only seen this episode one time, so
me too. I didn't get it. Work's been hell. I haven't had a noon 30. Thank you. So one of the folks in our live chat, Michael
awesome.
Camerata. Thank you very much, sir. She says noon 30, and I found myself, like, it was so odd that I found myself thinking, is this just a folksy way of saying it? Or is this another clue? Like, to your point, Jay, it's like you feel like you could analyze everything. And so that's the thing. Like, I found myself questioning in the moment, is that just Janie E? This whole situation seems goofy. So is this just how she would say something? Or is this supposed to be a clue that things are not quite right here? I don't know. But anyway.
Dougie, you're in the doghouse.
Yeah, Dougie, you are in the
you're in the doghouse for apparently committing adultery. I don't know. My wife would be a little bit more upset than that, but I guess she kind of knew stuff like that was going on with Dougie.
Yeah, that's sort of why, like, because some people keep thinking the way that nobody realizes that Dougie is like this, that's a clue. And it may very well be, but what we know of Dougie from, like, Janie E and some other things is it really does seem like Dougie's a drinker, he's a gambler, he's kind of and even when we saw the real Dougie, he seems like a real fuddy-duddy kind of guy. And so
he's a scumbag.
Yeah. But like, and kind of just like a slow, dim-witted one. And so like, it almost seems like Cooper being, like, maybe 5% there. People have seen Dougie like this. People have seen Dougie show up at the office, bombed out of his mind, barely able to function. So they just help him do stuff. I don't know. But
I mean, if he's I'm getting that he's kind of a jerk to people. Yeah. So I don't know why all these people are so willing to help him. If he's an asshole like his other coworkers are. Well,
to be fair, like, I don't know. Clearly he's immoral, and clearly he's not a good guy, because he's cheating. God, he's cheating on Naomi Watts. You gotta be kidding me. But anyway, he. I don't know that I would call him a jerk. Like, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, think of the way Jade treats him, and the way she even refers to him, like, from the scene in part 5 where she's just like, "Oh, Dougie." Like, I think he's just kind of like a curmudgeonly sort of guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that he's a jerk in the sense, like he's an, like, again, I'm losing the actor's name, but the dude that Dougie called out as a liar in part 5.
Oh yeah.
He's an asshole. Like, that's pretty clear. I think Dougie is just kind of aloof and not really present, which is why people are okay with him being sort of unavailable. I don't know. I could be justifying it. Maybe this is all a big clue about this being some weird, bizarro world. But I just, some of the little clues we've gotten seem to suggest that Dougie, the real Dougie, he wasn't the sharpest tack either, without being a jerk. Like he was kind of like, a big potato.
It's possible. I was just getting that from like Tom Sizemore and some of the other guys that he worked with were kind of, I don't know, like frat bros. Like come on, let's go pound some tail. Shit like that. That's just kind of I assumed he was kind of like that.
Right. Well, I guess I guess we'll learn more next week. It'll be doled out in tiny teaspoons, but we will get more.
I wanted to see Audrey this episode.
Yes.
I really did.
People are I believe there's an article, even like the title of the article, or maybe it opens with this. It's like, so we've finally seen Diane, but where the fuck is Audrey? Something like that.
I've checked out her Twitter, man. She's coming somewhere, and I think she has a fairly sizable role.
Well, she too is in the cast list.
Yeah.
She even did pictures with Entertainment Weekly as part of the big Twin Peaks is coming back spread. I there's a part of me wondering, and again they've waited so long, so I don't know that it would lose impact, but I legitimately wonder if Audrey is whole in this. Like, what if she survived the explosion in the bank from the end of season 2, but what if she's like missing her legs or something? And I think, and they're just maybe like holding back that reveal. Why I don't know, but there's a part of me that wonders, like, the longer we don't see Audrey, the more I question her status. I don't know.
I think it's more just, making us wait. It's more keeping us on bated breath.
Yeah.
Typical.
I guess. Yeah. Well, honestly, I think this is as good a segue as any, because we go from David Lynch and Mark Frost, who...
No, we don't. I'm going to pause.
Why? What are you doing?
I'm going to time out. I got the timeout signal. That's what I'm doing. My webcam's not on.
All right, Zach Morris.
All right. So combining the old Twin Peaks seasons, the 2 seasons with the new ones, so far what we have with 5 or 6 episodes, it's 6, right?
There's been 6 parts released of the new series, yeah.
Would you guys place it in your top 10? I know it's not finished yet, the new series. I know you probably would.
I really like it, but it's kind of hard. Like, it really is hard to treat these installments, like to assess them on their own individual merits, because they don't really tell complete stories in of themselves. Whereas the episodes of the original Twin Peaks, even though it was heavily serialized, an episode still had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and was kind of telling continuing stories. But there were some stories that like began and ended within the same episode. Like, these are, I am enjoying it. Like, again, like Jay said, I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. I just don't know that I can quite slot it into a, like, oh, well, these episodes fall within my top 10. Because honestly, I don't think they would, because they're not complete. Like, I don't know that I can take the premiere episode of season 3 and say, man, this ranks right up there with the pilot. I don't know that it does.
No, I mean, like, the whole thing bundled down minus the movie. Anything that's been on TV. Would that be in your top 10?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. The whole entire thing. The old series, the new series, every single episode, the first 2 seasons, and the first 6 episodes from this season all together. Even though it's kind of unfair. But, yeah.
I think it would. If I bundle everything together, I think it would be in the top 10.
See, I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of problems with season 2 and with Fire Walk with Me. And I really love the first season, and I really love where this is going.
Right.
It's extremely entertaining. It seems like it's getting better. It's ramping up to me, and we're going to get big reveals coming in the next few episodes, and then climax conclusion. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's definitely my hope.
It's gonna be a big letdown.
Well, I think once we start getting, like, again, the first big domino to fall will be getting Coop back. If we can get, because here's if I have any major criticism with it right now, and this is kind of a storytelling criticism, and so I do have one bone. I'm along for the ride, and David Lynch is not a traditional storyteller, so I'm willing to give him certain allowances. But typically, in a story, there needs to be an agent of action. There needs to be a protagonist driving forward the story.
Like for a good example would be Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop.
That's a fantastic example, because we start out that movie with him. He meets his friend gets murdered. He's got to find out who killed his friend. So Axel takes it upon himself to drive out to California and find the killer. He pushes the story ahead with his actions. In this, nobody's taken that role. It's really just a bunch of vignettes of things happening with different people. And the person who is sort of the hero, again, Cooper is our hero from the original series. But even when he was Cooper in the Black Lodge, he didn't do very much. I literally got super excited when he finally got out of the chair and started walking ahead in the Black Lodge. Like, he was getting ready, okay, I'm going to go. And all he was doing was walking. I got excited by that. But again, he's mostly just been a passive character. And he
knows how to walk.
Passive.
Yay!
Yeah.
He's learned how to walk.
Well, I'm just saying, because in those scenes, he was really just sitting in the chair. And it's we knew he couldn't leave, but then Laura tells him, you can go now. And so he gets up, and you think, wow, he's taking action. He's moving forward. He's gonna do something.
So it kind of needs to be the first Taken, but it's not that at all. Where he something happens, and then he goes Liam Neeson goes out to pursue and find out what's going on. Is that a good example too, or not as good as Beverly Hills Cop?
Well, I think Beverly Hills Cop was perfect, because it's very much a case where your main character is the agent of action. Axel drives the plot. Everything that happens in the movie, again, what the villains are doing necessarily aren't because of him, but we follow, he pushes us forward, and we follow his character, and he does active things that move the story forward. Here, nobody does that. And I just, it's, you can make the case that there are other Game of Thrones is a show where you could make somewhat of a comparison, because who's really the hero in Game of Thrones? I think as we get into the later seasons, there are certain characters that, again, heroes and villains, that almost doesn't apply to that show, even though there are very clear villains. But there's no one hero, and yet there are characters driving action. Jon Snow does stuff. Khaleesi does stuff. Tyrion does stuff. They move their stories ahead. In this Twin Peaks, I don't know. Hawk might be the one character who is kind of driving ahead with his story, but he's sort of taking his sweet time. So that would be from the perspective of a storyteller. And again, I like to think of myself as a storyteller. I've written a couple of books, of varied success. But I'm just saying, there needs to be an agent of action. There needs to be someone to follow, even if it's not a likable character. Like The Sopranos. Tony Soprano is a bastard. On The Shield, Vic Mackey is a bastard. These are not good guys, but they're our protagonist. They drive the story. We follow their stories. This doesn't have one yet. And that to me is the biggest red flag. I don't know, Jay. I'm sorry. I just
again,
what do you
that's
think?
more of the film aspect. We're getting there, and you can't view these as individual things. It's because there is no beginning, middle, and end. We're still in the right before middle part.
That's certainly true, except that, again, and my theory was, and I guess it's turned out to be somewhat wrong, unless finding the pages of Laura's diary is this event. But my theory is that if this is supposed to be taken as one big movie, the first 6 parts would be Act 1. The next 6, Act 2. The final 6, Act 3. Well, if this is the end of Act 1, yes, again, there were some major events. Richard Horne mowed over the kid. Mm-hmm. Certainly disturbing. Certainly seems to be a major event in the sleepy town of Twin Peaks. Hawk found the pages of what I think is Laura Palmer's diary. Major things, sort of, but typically, if it was a movie, there'd be someone we'd be following. It wouldn't just be this random assortment of events. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think I'm extra trying to be critical because I think I'm an apologist for the show sometimes, but I just don't know that even if you take these 6 parts as the first act of a larger story, I'm not sure that they quite do the job they're supposed to do in light of what the first act of a story is supposed to do.
What is the critical reception of this show? I'm just curious. Like, you got to be a pretty hardcore fan of the show to have stuck around without any sort of closure this long.
Yeah,
wouldn't you agree?
I certainly would. Critics, I think most critics like it. I think most critics are actually really responding to how much the show is subverting expectation, and that David Lynch is really just doing whatever the hell he wants to do. Because, even the most experimental and genre-bending shows out there, like, heck, Fargo, I think, is a good example. Fargo, I think, probably has a really good comparison to Twin Peaks. But even Fargo conforms to a traditional narrative.
Yeah.
This doesn't.
Kind of like Malcolm in the Middle, right?
What do you mean?
Again, we can segue. What? But no, I mean, it's non-linear storytelling, and Lynch is known for that type of stuff. And another person who's known for non-linear storytelling is Vince Gilligan.
That's
really
well, okay. So that is true to an extent, but I would argue, and again, maybe now is a good segue. But Vince Gilligan is a master. He has mastered pacing, and he tells story out of order sometimes, but it's still usually within a larger narrative.
Yeah.
Like, it's not completely unmoored from understanding.
Exactly.
We're not like floating on satellites in space, looking at bald guys' heads floating underneath us.
This shit would never fly. Like, if this was on network TV and David Lynch wasn't, who he is, this would have gotten pulled off 3 episodes ago.
Well, I would argue that he wouldn't have even tried to do it because I think Cameron and I have talked about this a little bit. Like, Twin Peaks season 3 airing in the fall of 1991 would not have been this show.
Oh, absolutely.
I maintain Coop would have been out of the Black Lodge by the end of the premiere. It would be like a 2-hour premiere or something, but he'd be out of the lodge and we'd be eating some pie, and we would have already, Pete would have already said some goofy stuff, and we would have been back as close to status quo as we can be. And that's not a knock on like David Lynch, but they had to operate within the box of conventional TV at the time. I just don't think if he tried to sell the ABC executives, like you drop on us like 8 really dangling cliffhangers, and then you think you're going to play around for 6 episodes? No. Like, is he, what happened to Cooper? What happened to Audrey? Like, you better tell us. Because, think about it. The networks, they review scripts. They do all that stuff. I think in the case of Showtime, it was basically like, okay, we want to make this story. Here's roughly what it is. You go write me a script. And then they give it to him, and then I think Showtime's like, okay, fine. But keep in mind, too, and because Kyle MacLachlan said this, the script that Kyle MacLachlan read and what the head of Showtime read was not like, conceivably what they read was organized differently than what we are seeing. The script is just one giant long story. So arguably the order in which events happen and characters introduced and things going on was different in that script. And then, Lynch and his editors kind of came in and cut them into pieces as seemed to make logical sense, which seems somewhat laughable in some ways, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going against the grain of, my experience with television. It's very different, because there's not. Generally there's some sort of closure to something, at some point, at the end of the episode, that's generally what they shoot for.
Yeah.
And, no attempt here at all, which, I can appreciate that for what it is, but.
I think David Lynch's response would be, like these aren't episodes. These are
Sure, sure.
parts, and the closure you're looking for is at the end of the parts in
Yeah, but
episode 18.
he was hired to make a show, which shows have episodes. He can call them whatever he wants to, but
Yeah,
they're going to be known as episodes
it's fair enough.
because
I
they
mean,
have
I
to
think-
be aired that way.
Well, see, this is why I say that critics are actually kind of why I think they like what he's doing, is because when he first came on the scene with the original Twin Peaks, he broke the mold of TV, basically changed how TV shows were made, how you thought about them, what the stories had to be, and I think he's trying to do that again. Like again, I don't know that it's necessarily a conscious thing, like, oh, I'm trying to break TV again, but I think he's just saying it's like, well, that's how we did it then, but that's not narratively how I want to tell this story now. I want to make a movie. I don't want to make a show. I want to make a movie. And so I'm going to make a movie, and then we're just going to dice it up and show it to you in pieces. And it's, again, I'm enjoying it. And, I think at the end we can better say if the experiment was successful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just see, us in 3 months, our jaws are on the ground, like, oh shit.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
hell,
but-
our jaws could be on the ground next weekend.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like,
true.
it all ties together. Like Coop comes back, he's swinging from vines with hot, sexy Audrey. I mean, who knows? It could all happen.
Don't stop. Keep going.
Yeah.
She's a
But I think-
paraplegic.
I think we have. I think we've mined that as deep as we can go, and we brought up Vince Gilligan a few times. So kind of making the hard transition over to kind of the other topic I wanted to cover here tonight, which is we go over kind of the show of the day, which is Twin Peaks, and then cover some legacy TV that's if you haven't seen it, definitely worth your time, and maybe even if you have, it might be worth revisiting. I think I've seen Breaking Bad now 3 times all the way through.
Oh wow.
Wow, that's dedication. Nice.
Maybe it was only 2. Might just be 2. But I've seen it through the series more than once. And there are some episodes I've probably seen more than that because AMC even to this day will periodically just have like a giant Breaking Bad marathon.
Yeah.
So I'll sometimes tune in and watch some of that.
It's on Netflix also, so it's convenient.
Yeah.
to watch
And so
there.
Breaking Bad again, you guys know, but the made by Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould. Vince Gilligan of X-Files fame wrote some really good episodes of the X-Files, and unfortunately, due to his commitments to Better Call Saul, he couldn't come back to do an episode of the new X-Files that came out last year. And goddamn, I wish he could have, because he could have really helped. I don't know what they were doing with that. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
But I would have liked Vince Gilligan to have contributed to that, at least one
Next
episode.
week,
I think it
episode
was.
7 and X-Files. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Sharpening my pitchfork.
Yeah,
Ooh.
we could. I'd love to talk about X-Files. I love the X-Files.
Oh, me
If
too.
anything,
That's-
X-Files is like a spiritual successor to Twin Peaks in some ways.
That's my
Um,
favorite. My
yeah.
favorite show. So
Oh,
wow.
nice. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
Over
Um,
the wire?
yeah, it is probably over the wire work. I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
I mean, I've heard different reactions.
Very
and-
different shows.
Okay, gotcha. I've heard different reactions about the new show that they did, the new season. But the old ones, man, like I didn't see any of the movies because I'm a noob, but the old season, it was on so much in the 90s. Like I can't remember anything specifically, but I used to watch it all the time. All the,
Well-
9 seasons they had or something?
Yeah,
There was an episode with Bryan Cranston.
there was.
So
That-
that's,
This is actually a perfect segue, Jay, because it was that episode that convinced. In fact, I wonder if Vince Gilligan wrote that episode.
yeah, I would have guessed he probably did.
Basically, again, you made the comment about Malcolm in the Middle earlier, Orc, but Bryan Cranston up to that point had been known as the goofy dad, and Malcolm in the Middle had been known as the dentist Tim Watley on Seinfeld. He was known as a comedic actor,
Yeah.
or
and
as the
Neil Patrick
voice
Harris
of
wasn't good at it.
a Power Rangers monster.
Yeah, I loved
But-
him on Malcolm in the Middle, by the way.
Yeah. But on the X-Files, he played in an episode called Drive. And in the episode, basically, there was this guy Bryan Cranston, who, it starts out, he's trying to save his wife. He's like trying to drive really fast. There's something wrong with her. He has to stop and get gas, and her head explodes. We later learn that there's something afflicting them, something they caught that can only be soothed by kind of the pressure changes that happen when you're driving in a car at high speeds. So he abducts Mulder, and he's got Mulder driving, west, and they got to go like at least 50 miles an hour, and he's, making anti-Semitic remarks at Mulder, and he's kind of a prick. But Mulder like kind of has to save his life because this guy is going to die unless he drives, and meanwhile he's got to try and get Scully to investigate what's happening. But Bryan Cranston was not just the fuddy-duddy dad, not the funny dentist. He was playing this really kind of hardcore jerk, bad character, and he blew it out of the park. I mean, I think again it goes to my old theory. I bring it up all the time. Comedic actors can do drama really well, and I think he proves that. But that episode is what convinced Vince Gilligan that, when he conceived of the idea for Breaking Bad, that Bryan Cranston should be this guy, and he had to fight for that. I think he even showed the executives at AMC that episode of The X-Files. Like, hold on, this is the guy I want. And the concept of the show was Mr. Chips becomes Scarface. And so, you could even make the case that when he starts the show, Bryan Cranston sort of is the fuddy-duddy dad from Malcolm in the Middle or whatever. Like, he's just this really kind of impotent character.
Oh man, yeah. I watched the pilot again last night. That's an amazing pilot, first of all. But the transition for Walter White, I love. It's his life sucks so bad, man.
Yeah.
And he works at the car wash, and the guy, his boss, kind of gets all over his ass to go wipe down some cars, and he's had enough, man. I got cancer. Fuck this place, and so he split, and that's when he kind of mans up a little bit. He defends Walt Jr. When he's some older kids are making fun of him in the clothing store.
Yeah,
which is terrible, man. What kind of person makes fun of a handicapped person like that?
That's there's a special section in hell for that. Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. But that's just an amazing episode. I wish I'd had time to watch more of the show, but
yeah, I was pretty ruthless growing up, but I don't think I ever crossed those lines. That's just
no. Yeah. I mean, I was an asshole for sure, but I was never. That's
there's a line, and you even know in middle and high school.
Oh, that's off limits, man. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for handicapped people, physically and mentally.
Yeah,
it's just really sad.
That's why you like me.
And what the pilot really does though is it because Walt does live this really sad life, and he's put upon. It makes it that much more convincing to understand why he would go down this path. Because not only does he find out he has cancer, not only is his son handicapped, his wife is pregnant. They have bills, and it's kind of like, his hotshot brother who's like a DEA agent. He just sees, the kind of money that these drug dealers make, and it's just sort of like, I'm really smart. Like maybe I could do this.
Real quick, the only thing I remember from the first episode is when Hank is just spinning the gun and he's in the party. He's like, "Hey, look at this!"
And Walt Jr.'s like, "Hey, Dad, look at this. This is pretty cool." Like Hank comes off like such a prick in the first episode.
Oh yeah, he does.
Which he
actually
is,
in the first episode too has, if I'm not mistaken, like has like frontal nudity, because I think the first episode was made potentially for Showtime and they didn't pick it up.
Oh wow.
The scene when Walt sees Jesse, well, basically Jesse escapes the house when Hank and his guys go in. He's leaving out of the upstairs, and a topless woman like opens the window, and you see her. She's topless, which
wow.
they don't show that on AMC. I think they blur that, but if you watch it on like DVD, or I think even Netflix has it unblurred. Really? Like, again, she's topless. But again, she's never topless when you watch it on AMC. They either blur her or they kind of cut it differently. And that's because the pilot, when they made it, I don't know that they knew it was going to be for AMC. I think they had to shop it around.
Oh, now you mentioned it, I got to go. Sorry, guys. It's been fun.
It's like a 2-second, you kind of got to be watching.
Hey, that's all I need, buddy. I don't know about you.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's, it does what a pilot should do, right? There are certain, like the rule of a pilot is you have to create a world. You have to create compelling characters, not necessarily good characters, good in the sense of like good versus bad, or good versus evil rather. But you sort of learn Walt's plight, and you see what he's going to try and do to get out of it, and then there's a lot of narrative ground to cover. Like where is this going to go? And I think that Breaking Bad's first season, I think really it almost benefited from the writer's strike. So I don't know whether you remember that, but the first season of Breaking Bad is only 8 episodes, and it's only 8 episodes because it kind of started out that year that so that was 2008. The writer's strike struck, and so where season 1 ends is, I believe that was not originally the plan. Like, I think they've said that they had other ideas, and in fact, they always had to hold themselves back from unspooling too much story. Like, I think they had thoughts about. In fact, I think they've said that the writer's strike saved Hank's life. I think they had a story where Hank dies in the finale of season 1.
Oh wow,
that would have gone differently.
But because the writer's strike happened, and also after having seen the first season and how good Hank was, they realized, like, well, no, there's more narrative ground to cover here, and there's more story here too. Like, we don't need to go this fast.
Now, since we're going season by season, the end of season 1 is where Tuco dies, right? He kills him.
No.
Tuco
doesn't die, but basically they get mixed up with Tuco, and Walt.
I thought Hank shoots Tuco.
No, that's beginning of season 2.
Oh, okay.
Basically, what happens at the end of season 1 is, remember, Walt goes to Tuco's office.
And he's got
basically throws a bomb at him, basically.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And so then they later, like, Tuco agrees to take his stuff, but I think that's when Tuco like kills his guy right in front of them. And it kind of ends just on this shot of Walt and Jesse's face. I could be wrong. I might be mixing stuff up, but I'm pretty sure that Hank does not shoot Tuco until like the 3rd or 4th episode of season 2, because when season 2 begins, it basically picks up right off that shot. And then, like, there's more stuff with Tuco, and Walt wants to try and kill him. Mm-hmm. And then they end up, like, being stuck out at Tuco's house with Tio, his uncle. Yeah. The creepy dude with the bell.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And then, like, Hank eventually finds them, and then there's, like, a shootout. And again, that kind of starts out a good storyline for Hank where, badass Hank, he's very shaken by the fact that he killed someone and he was in that gunfight. But season 2 also starts this kind of talking about playing with narrative. But again, I think still done in a much neater fashion than David Lynch. Each episode begins with this kind of black and white shot, and there's, taken out of context, you don't really understand what's quite happening. It's black and white shots, but the one thing that's not black and white is there's a pink bunny. There appear to be debris, and like things are burned, and it just looks like stuff has been destroyed, and you get different perspectives on this scene as the season goes.
That's the linear storytelling I was talking about, the non-linear. And Vince Gilligan is sort of a protege of Chris Carter, in a way, because I listened to some podcasts of him, and he learned a lot from Chris Carter while working. I think
the student has surpassed the teacher at this point.
Well, absolutely, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that at all. But yeah, you see a lot of that style in this show, and it's really interesting because, when they approach this show, they don't really know what's going to happen, and then they just start, and then things happen, and we find out that came out of I believe a plane that exploded, right?
Yep,
that's right. Yeah,
who was the guy who was the air traffic controller? Who was the actor who played him? Because he's in a bunch of stuff.
John Delancey. He played Q on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh wow. I noticed that.
It's and one of the things that they kind of said as the seasons went on is that what they like to do, and they said they like to do it, but they sort of then hate themselves, is they like to try and write themselves into corners and figure out, like, well, what's the character going to do to get themselves out of it? And they very much do that. And I think to your point, like, yeah, it's like I think they had this image of this like wreckage or this debris and this destroyed thing, but I don't know that they knew right away what it was going to be. I think they just knew it was going to be. Actually, no, I'm not. Actually, what I think it is I think they knew it was going to be a plane crash. What I don't think they knew is how that would happen. I think it's like they just had this image that Walt would through his actions cause a plane to crash, but they had no idea how that would transpire. And season 2 definitely covers some fertile narrative ground, because that's also the season that ends with Walt letting Jesse's girlfriend die. A very, very and the way they acted it out it's very explicit. Like, he's taking an overt action not to help, which that gets paid off in the end game of the show. Also notable about season 2, the introduction of Saul Goodman, attorney at law, Better Call Saul. Mike Ehrmantraut gets his introduction at the end of the season, actually as a part of the whole Jesse's girlfriend dying scene.
And she's right at the beginning of season 2, right? When he moves into his new place and she's his neighbor. Is that correct?
Yeah, she's his landlord. But then they start hooking up.
And they meet Saul when they're trying to find like a legit reason or a legit way to launder this money.
Yeah. So they kidnap him and they like drag him into the desert, and and Saul kind of like talks his way out of it.
I like when he's got the
becomes their
safe with all the cell phones and shit.
Yeah.
I love Bob Odenkirk. I have for 30 years, 20 years.
But I mean, Bob Odenkirk, that's why I very much enjoy. Again, I don't want to get too much into Better Call Saul, because I know we'll probably do a show on that, and I don't want to ruin too much of it. But that character, using him as like the grounds for a prequel, I don't know what other character you could have used, except maybe Gus. If you just took Gus as the central character and tried to build a show around him,
you could do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you could do that. But I mean, to me, Saul had. This is a dream of mine. I don't know that they're going to do it. I think they've talked about it, but my dream would be that in the end game of Better Call Saul, we see events of Breaking Bad, but like either things we didn't see, or we kind of get like more color on like, we'll see what Saul was doing when other things were happening.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
There's like what is it, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, or there's like a play like that where it's like what are the minor characters doing while the bigger characters are like off, doing like the big story. I think that it would be great to see that, because there are certain characters and situations in Better Call Saul that I find, now that I've watched all of Breaking Bad, and I've only seen, what they've released so far of Better Call Saul, but I find myself wondering, well, what happened to some of these people? And so it's if they could find a way to do that, and it would be tricky. Like, you got to think of some of the narrative leaps, and there'd be a lot of work to figure out how to like insert story between existing Breaking Bad story, and geeky fans like myself would be like pouring over it, like, actually that we met at 3 o'clock, and so Saul could not have been there. It'd be stuff like that. If they did do that, I think they'd probably be. It would be tough, but I hope they try something like it, or at least do it a little bit.
What's the timeline?
Better Call Saul takes place. So we know Breaking Bad takes place in 2008, and then there is at one point like a time jump to 2009, but it's basically in those
entire 5 seasons. Because I think the first episode is Walt's birthday, and then I think in the 5th season he turns 51, right? That's
right. So pretty much most of the 5 seasons of the show are inside of a year, and then there's a time jump where we do see beyond that time period. Like, we do see the 51st birthday, and we see some other time jumps like at the end there, but it still is only about a year or two. Like, it only covers about a year or two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so far, Better Call Saul has been roughly the same. Okay. I believe it takes place in 2002, maybe 2003. And in terms of time, it may have only been like a year, maybe 2. But like, there's not been a big, huge time jump or anything.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So plenty of time to do what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, and actually, and you know what I'm forgetting too is season 2 also introduced Gus, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure Walt meets Gus towards the end of season 2.
You're right.
Because that's we get our first Los Pollos Hermanos introduction there, and I just have to say that the actor Giancarlo Esposito, which by the way I find it funny some of the names I can remember and the ones that I totally blank on. Like that's an easy one,
Props.
right?
Props on
Giancarlo
that one.
Esposito. Well, the actor who plays Gus, the reason I know him is he was on Homicide: Life on the Street, which is definitely a show I'd like to do on here. Except Jay, I don't know if you've seen it, but that was a fantastic. It's a fantastic show. I actually have the like the big DVD box set of it, and it's it comes in like a big file drawer. But anyway, he appears in the final season as the son of the captain in Homicide, and I just always thought he was an interesting actor, and since then, like I'd seen him in just a handful of other things, and on Breaking Bad, he just, holy cow, man, like that just. The acting talent on that show from actors who, again, before Breaking Bad, who the hell remembered who Giancarlo Esposito? Eric remembers. I remember. Oh, he was on Homicide. Yeah, like no one else remembers that.
He's done lots of stuff though.
Yeah, he's got a really big. He's had a huge career. I mean, he's done guest spots on Law and Order. I mean, I think he's been in movies. I mean, he's done all kinds of things. But really, I mean, he's known now. He's the guy from Breaking Bad, absolutely, and what a character too. I mean,
just when he waits in the restaurant all day, and then you see Gus, the manager, like a low tier manager, and he's just a skinny, like nerdy black dude, and you're just like, no, it can't be that guy. There's
right.
No, and then you just see his character transform into what he is when he slits the guy's throat when they're in the built-in thing under the laundry.
Oh, dude, but you're jumping like a season and a half ahead. I mean, that's
season 3.
That's the beginning of season 4.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because it's at the that's
right. Yeah.
So season 3 is then, Walt finally gets hooked up with Gus, and we see Gus is like a true expert, like he's a true businessman, and he's got this whole complex setup where they just. It's very well hidden, and the cover is great, and the money's laundered through the restaurant. Like, it's perfectly clean, and Walt can just go down there and cook, and he makes the damn good blue ice, and but Gus like has like an assistant brought in, Gail. Is it Gail Boddicker or Gail something?
The gay scientist guy who he has to kill. Yeah,
well, I don't know that he's gay, but Gail, whatever, maybe sort of effete intellectual guy.
But I mean, it kind of sounds like it. I don't know.
Well, he's intellectual. He's a little effete, I guess. But Gail comes aboard, and Gail's just like, again, another great Breaking Bad character, another good character actor, puts in good work on the show. But Walt starts to get. The thing that becomes clear over the course of Breaking Bad, for as much as Walt and Jesse fight, is that Walt has a sense of dedication to Jesse, something that Jesse never even quite realizes, I think, until the very, very end. And when, Jesse is spiraling out of control because of the death of his girlfriend, something for which, Walt is responsible for, so it's other guilt that, kind of draws him to Jesse.
Before we were in season 3, we got to talk about that, is that in the last episode of season 2?
No, I think it's the second to last episode, because the last episode is that's basically how we learn how the plane crashes and what happens. Gotcha. So Jesse is, he's always doing drugs, and she's recovering, but he gets her doing drugs again, and they basically just have this like all day marathon of heroin and or whatever it was they were doing, crack, and it eventually or were they doing
I think it may have been heroin.
Was it heroin? Yeah, because I think they started out with like crack or something, but then they moved up to heroin. Like they went and bought better stuff.
Gateway. It's a gateway drug.
In fact, I think she brought it. She knew where to get it. If I remember, she's the one who brought the heroin because Jesse had never done it. I remember that being like a thing. It's like she did it and she set him up and everything.
That was a really cool shot too. The first time he did it, he floated up.
Yeah.
And you see her shooting up in the background. It's a really, really cool shot.
And again, it's part of just the visuals on Breaking Bad, just the vistas, the New Mexico desert, some of their shots. Vince Gilligan clearly worships at the altar of David Lynch. He has to.
Yeah.
The things that show does in terms of pacing and timing and visuals and even just the way shots are framed, like he clearly is trying to make TV not TV. Like it has a very cinematic approach. But anyway, yeah, she's the one who introduced him to heroin. They do heroin all day long, and then Walt goes to their place at night, and she had been driving a wedge between them over money, which Walt was trying to not give to Jesse. So he kind of had his, he was kind of a shithead in the middle of that too. But Jane started choking in the middle of the night. She like threw up and was choking on it, and he just lets her die.
He just looks at her, and then Jesse's right asleep right next to her in the bed. And that, like, their relationship just from season 2, her and Jesse, like, watching that was pretty difficult to watch because Walt just doesn't give a fuck. He just doesn't care at all. And she's just, like, choking.
I wanted to make the point that this show is really interesting because all of the characters are really unlikable at certain points. Have you noticed that? I mean, like Skylar is just the worst, a lot of the time, at least to me. I really don't like Skylar. But, of course, Walter, but, there's some moments where, he does nice things, and Jesse is an asshole most of the time to everybody, but sometimes he's really nice. I mean, it's everybody's that way. Even, Hank is likable sometimes. Marie is likable sometimes. Rarely, but sometimes.
Walter, when he's not asking for breakfast, is nice sometimes.
Oh man, there's did you ever see the 8-bit Breaking Bad game?
I did. Yeah, that was cool.
Because I'm pretty sure if you play as like Walter Jr., like all you do is eat breakfast or something.
I think we're going, okay, we got to go down this different road because Walt Jr., like Walter Mitty, I think his name is, or no, what is that? What the fuck
it's I think it's RJ Mitty.
RJ Mitty, yeah.
Or RJ Mitty or something like
awesome.
that.
Like he would go to conventions or just make public appearances, like with people from the show, and all they would do is ask him about breakfast.
They take pictures with like cereal boxes and stuff. Yeah,
that was like one of the funniest like things I read on Reddit. He was answering questions, doing like a Reddit Ask Me Anything, and it was fucking hilarious. But yeah,
it does not like turkey bacon.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we're talking about we've hardly we touched on Walt's son in the sense that he's handicapped, but we hardly touched on his character, and similarly we hardly touched on Marie, so Hank's wife. I'm trying to remember, was it season 2 with the plot line where Marie's like shoplifting? When did that come in? I don't remember when.
I remember that. I'm not sure when.
She's shoplifting, but she goes to like an estate sale or something, or a tour of a house, and she steals something from the house. I think.
Yeah.
You remember?
She's like pulling some weird stuff, and the realtor like catches her.
Yeah. And Hank's like, "You're doing it again," or something. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, we learned that this is something that had happened before. I think was it? No. It was actually season 3 because what I was thinking of too is when we learn about when we learn about Hank's his geology obsession that he gets into, but that comes.
I love that.
That's like I think that's season 3, and I think even parts of season 4 because basically the other plot line that rises up in season 3 is after the death of Tuco, the cartel sends these badass twins up, I think, to take revenge on him, and they figure out. Where they think they figure out who's responsible. And I think they originally locked on Walt, but then they get locked on Hank. And that was another Hank, I think, was supposed to die like several points in the series. Yeah. And the writers just kept figuring out ways for Hank to like get out of it. And so that scene is probably one of the tensest, one of the best action scenes of the whole series where like, Hank is locked in like a life or death struggle he hits the one dude with the car and then he gets shot, but like he finds the bullet on the ground and then shoots the other guy. Like that's just a fantastic sequence. But then that kind of puts Hank out of commission for, like pretty much a season and a half. Cause it's really not until the beginning of season 5, I don't think, that he's sort of really back and moving around in an active way.
When is he in Mexico? Is that season 4 or 5?
When is who in Mexico?
Hank. Doesn't he take like a DEA job down in Mexico?
That I actually think that was part of season 2. So after he shot Tuco, in season 2, after he shot Tuco, he got like promoted, and they wanted to send him, so he spent more time closer to the border, and then he was a part of that mission where they put like a bomb. They put a bomb inside of a tortoise with the dude's head on it, and he killed 12 agents or something.
Yeah.
And that was who? Oh shit! Who's the again? I can't remember the actor's name.
That was Danny Trejo.
There you go.
Danny
Danny
Trejo.
Trejo played that guy. Yeah.
That was season 2, right?
Right. I'm pretty sure that was season
Yeah.
2. Because as I'm starting to think about the progression of the story, it had to be season 2 because sort of what starts to happen in seasons like 3 and 4, there's not enough time for him to go to Mexico and have all these other things go on.
So Hank could have died there. I mean, he potentially
he was supposed to. I think they wrote it as like he was going to die, and they were kind of like, well, what, maybe he gets out of it. And again, they came up with, there's nothing about it that feels hollow to me. I mean, you're rooting for Hank. I mean, he takes those guys down.
Yeah. But the twins show up, man, and they're just hardcore ruthless.
Yeah, like they're a presence for sure. Like, and it's the show was always good at doing villains. Sort of like the opposite of the Marvel universe. Breaking Bad had some really good, compelling villains. I mean, Tuco, the twins, Gus. Heck, even the kind of like the Aryan Brotherhood guys that sort of rise up towards the end. Are pretty decent villains, but hell, you could even make the case. I mean, Walt is sort of the villain of the story in a way, and he's the best there is. I'm trying to think, like, so season 3 essentially ends where, they're trying to kill Walt because Gale, the chemist, can essentially do what Walt can, and so he convinces Jesse to kill him. And that's kind of, that season pretty much ends with like Jesse with Gale opening the door, and Jesse points the gun at him, and after the screen goes dark, you hear a gunshot. And so he kind of like fucks up Gus's whole operation because like Gus doesn't want to work with Walt anymore because he's nothing but poison and he's dangerous, but now he's stuck with him. So season 4 is just a pressure cooker of a season, I think.
Yeah, I think that may be my favorite season.
Is the fly in season 3 or 4?
The witch?
The fly that gets stuck in the lab.
Oh yeah, the fly that gets stuck in the lab. I'm pretty sure that's 3. Season 4. Yeah,
oh,
I think.
4?
Well, it's either 3 or 4, but that's a good question. I thought it was 4. Because the thing is because Jesse's not in the lab with him a ton in season 3, if I remember correctly. Because of all the, again, he's like fucking around and he's not really available. And then eventually he starts going around. Does Jesse start going around with Mike in season 3 or season 4?
I don't remember.
That's 3, I think. That's when you think Mike is going to kill Jesse, right?
I think so. And
that's what I thought.
Yeah, I definitely think that Mike and Jesse's relationships like started up in season 3, and then in season 4, after he killed Gale, there was kind of there was a cold period. But when the stuff with the cartel ramps up, like Mike, Jesse is like Mike's partner to some extent, and they're doing stuff. And
I remember when they're going around getting the bags of money at like various locations.
Right.
Mike is driving around Jesse. Yeah.
Right. It's confusing because like those early seasons have like very straightforward plots, whereas as the show goes on, like I found the seasons become more and more complex. It's harder to remember what happens when. But the thing that I always remember is it's sort of funny because it's like we're rooting for Walt in some sense. I mean, again, he's not a great guy, but we are kind of rooting for him to pull things out. And yet we're also kind of rooting for Gus because there's sort of like 2 stories going on there where Gus is like taking on the cartel. There's some cool, combat shit where like Mike is taking out guys trying to hit the trucks. And, it kind of all culminates in the scene that you mentioned, I think earlier, Orc, about the, everybody drinks the poison at the party.
Yeah.
And so, in kind of one fell swoop, Gus like takes out the whole cartel.
Now you said he was defending the Los Pollos trucks. Which episode or season was it, 3 or 4, where he gets his ear blown off the top?
That's what I'm thinking of. That's that episode. I think it's because he's like in the truck, and they like shoot the hell out of the truck, and he like he loses a piece of his ear, and then when the guys open the door, like wherever he was hiding, like he just shoots him anyway.
And let me read you my notes for season 4. Gus is badass. Hank loves rocks.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was the third one?
Gus murdered.
Yeah, right. And so it all culminates where Jesse, for all intents and purposes, has sided with Mike and with Gus, because Gus in season 3, Gus brought Walt over and he cooked dinner with him, and he wanted to make listen, it's like, if I'm going to cook dinner with you, we're going to work together. We got to do this a certain way. I need to trust you. Obviously, after the events of season 3, Gus did not trust Walt anymore. He was like a necessary evil. So. Right. He then invited Jesse over, and I think, Jesse started seeing just how like self-destructive Walt was. And it was only after Walt, again, it was sort of an open question, and then until it wasn't, that, Walt, Jesse got himself affiliated with a girl and her young son, and Walt poisoned the kid with Lilac of the Valley, if I remember is the name of the flower.
Ricin. Was it Ricin?
No, because Ricin would have killed him. He used Lilac of the Valley because it would poison him. But I think Walt chose it specifically because like it wouldn't kill him or something. I forget how that was drawn out or how they explained it. But basically, Walt was telling him that Gus poisoned this kid. And I'm not sure that Jesse even believed him at first, but he convinced him of it. And that's what got Jesse on his side, so that Walt could kind of like engineer at the end the spectacular defeat of Gus, which I was when I was mentioning the Shield a little while ago, I was talking about how like you're just sort of on the edge of your seat watching like that final season of the Shield.
Yeah.
I feel like season 4 of Breaking Bad is a little like that. There's a lot of episodes where you're just like, holy shit, oh man, like is he gonna do it? What's gonna happen? And that whole sequence is just one of them. It's like,
Breaking Bad did that to me though. It was like, I was like, okay, well, I got shit to do tomorrow. I should really get to bed. Episode 5 is over. Next episode's starting in 15, 14. I was like, okay. And then the sun's coming up, and I'm like, well, I'm fucked now. This is great.
Yeah.
Those episodes are great when you're binging it because you can go right into the next one. But when you have to wait an entire season until it starts again, that sucks.
Yeah.
It's true, because I watched 4 seasons of Breaking Bad via Netflix, and I think I did it like Amazon Video or Xbox Video or something. So everything else but it was that final season, which was even worse because the 5th season was split in half.
Right.
So it was like 8 episodes and 8 episodes. So you had to wait.
I watched the first 4 to basically go off of what you said. I watched the first 4, and then I caught the last 2, which should have been 5 and 6, but I caught those last 2 seasons live on AMC.
Yeah, I remember, man. It was huge. Like, it was the biggest. I mean, one of the biggest television events, other than a sporting event or something that I can think of.
What, the finale?
Yeah, or that second half of that season.
Oh yeah,
was just ramped up so big.
Because remember how it ends. Remember what happens. Basically, like Hank finds a copy of, I think it's Leaves of Grass, that Gale gave as a gift to Walt. And the note, like the way he signed it or the way he like marked it, like for WW, and it like all of a sudden Hank just had like he realized the WW he'd seen elsewhere, and it's like Hank realizes it's been Walt all along. And so that's the friggin' thing we end the damn half season on. We gotta wait.
Episode when they're having a cookout by the pool and then Hank's in the bathroom and he's taking a dump.
Yes.
Is that okay? Yeah.
That's exactly it. And he's like, he
Most
looks at the book.
Dump ever.
Yes, exactly. And part of what I always give the show credit for is that they didn't really tease you that much. They didn't play with you. Like when they came back the next season, you didn't have to wait like 5 episodes. Well, again, they only had 8 episodes to play with, but you didn't have to wait to find out what happened. Like the results of Hank finding that book play out over that that first episode back. And that kind of sets in motion the rest of the season. And I was just glad for that. Because, that was the thing is, and it's sort of in stark contrast to Twin Peaks. Like, Breaking Bad would play with your expectations and they would make you wait. But I found that if you waited, the way that they executed on their ideas and the way that they realized some of their goals was worth it. Like Hank finally finding out about Walt was like, again, that scene was great. And then like Walt ends it with threatening him. Like,
I love that.
and And then, just the rest. I mean, hell, I didn't think that in that final season, like, I didn't think they'd be able to pull off kind of this sort of tense stuff they'd done in seasons before. But then they go and do the train heist. Do you remember the train heist episode and those
awesome.
final 8 episodes? Like that, you break out in a sweat watching that scene where they're trying to steal the what's ethanol? I forget what it is. I forget the material that's whatever it is.
I don't think I can pronounce it. It's some crazy chemical.
It's like methylene or methanol or something like that. But shit, like that entire episode is fantastic. And you know what? And actually, I'm actually skipping over one of my favorite characters because I was actually about to say, before we're done, I'd like to hear who your favorite characters are. I think my favorite character, just because I like the actor and I thought the role he played was just so
Don't
great.
Say it. Don't say it. I know
it was Todd. Jesse Plemons' character, Todd.
I knew you were going to say Todd.
Like, Todd was a fucking sociopath, man.
The moment I saw him, I was like, this is going to lead to something really fucking bad.
Really bad. Matt Damon is in this show.
Yeah.
And he's awesome.
Yeah, and he's and to be honest, like, he's somewhere on the spectrum. Like, the show never comes out and says that, but like I am positive he was playing that character as being slightly autistic. Like, he did, because he always just seemed slightly, there was like a piece missing there. That's why he kind of just seemed, God, what is Jesse calls him something funny. God damn it, what is it? It's something like Gomer or something. I forget what it is, but Jesse has a funny name for him in that last season.
I remember that scene.
Jesse Plemons, he's really blown up since then.
First off, I was a huge Jesse Plemons fan even before he was on Breaking Bad. I was excited when I saw he'd be on it because I am a huge Friday Night Lights fan, and his character on Friday Night Lights is fantastic. Like
that's another one that's been on my list to get into.
Oh, dude, it's first off, let me just tell you, like, every goddamn woman on that show is gorgeous. So if there's any reason at all, if you're hesitant, if you just want to see pretty women walking around with Texas accents, that's the show to watch. But besides that, it really is a fantastic show. And I think the reason I like that show too is that, for once, like, there's like a married couple on a TV show where there's just inherent drama in their marriage. Like other shows, like, and again, I'll pick on Cheers because I mentioned it before, but it's like always the question of, like, will they, won't they? And then when characters ultimately get together, it's like, it's never, it's never good when they're together. Friday Night Lights kind of proves it's like, no, if you do it right, there's a way of writing, like, characters that are married or characters that are together that's really dramatic and really fucking good. Sorry, this became a Friday Night Lights show here for a moment. But if you're, first off, I would say try the pilot, because I bet if you try the pilot, it will hook you to watch more. Very, very good.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to get into with my wife, as a show to watch together.
And that was actually the secret of Friday Night Lights. Is I think NBC thought it's about football. It's a guy show. It's not. It was kind of a soap opera to some extent. It was really a show for women. And I like it, and so I'm not saying that to boot you out, but I'm just saying, like, women, I think, like that show more than guys do.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of parts, and plus, you've got Tim Riggins. What's that actor's name? He was the guy, John Carter from Mars or whatever.
Oh, Taylor Kitsch.
Taylor Kitsch is on that show, and there's not an episode that goes by that he's not, like, shirtless or, like, walking around half naked, just boozing around town, being exactly.
What's funny though is I play a lot of football growing up. I think Jay did too. But I've seen basically every big football movie except Friday Night Lights. And I know it's kind of little.
It's a great movie,
right?
I think.
Well, and what's good is that the show is not. It plays with some different issues than the movie. So it's like you can see the movie and you can see the show. What's funny is that the actress who plays Coach's wife, Bonnie Britton, Connie Britton, sorry, not Bonnie. Connie Britton plays Coach's wife in the show and the movie. Two completely different characters, but interestingly enough, she plays.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think she's married to Peter Berg. Peter Berg directed the movie, and he's like one of the executive producers of the show. But it is nepotism, yes, but she's fantastic. Again, it's nepotism, but it didn't need to be because she's amazing. Like, I don't know who else could have done that role that well. But anyway, I'm sorry, we got far afield.
Taylor Kitsch, real quick. Taylor Kitsch, I liked a lot in True Detective season 2.
Taylor,
I know that's a show that people crap on a lot, but I really enjoyed season 2.
Yeah, Taylor, he was probably the only character of that season that I think had like a complete and worthwhile story. Like, I had some real problems with that season, and I tried to be an apologist for it for as long as I could, but when the whole thing ended, it just ended up in a whole bunch of nothing to me. Like, I still am not really quite sure what that was about. I
was really moved by the whole Colin Farrell, like fuck it, we won't spoil it all, but anyway. I know what you're referring to, and I will admit that was actually moving. The end there. That was moving, but I'm not. It was moving, but I'm not sure if it was moving because it was earned or it just was a moving thing. Like, it was a powerful image. Yeah. His relationship with his son was very complicated, and I don't know, that father-son stuff always gets me, man. It's just oh yeah, dude, you want to get me blubbering? Let's put on Rudy. But anyway, sorry. So Breaking Bad, yeah. So Todd is probably my favorite character. Oh, I think he's I just found him so interesting, and I also liked how and again it never became anything. But he had like a crush on the character Lydia, the woman who was Gus's connect, who was getting him his like methylamine and was like helping drive some of the stuff. Right. The actress Laura Frazier. I just thought it was kind of funny that like Todd had like a thing for her. That's the woman that was killed by the stevia, right? Yes. She's the one. She's the one who.
My hair's falling out.
Like, basically, they let her live, and then she turned out to be like a really cold-hearted, bitch. But you kind of had to be. I don't want to. Again, Walt is a bastard. She's kind of a bitch. Like, there's really no. I'm trying to think like who would be a good character on that show. What's funny is like Saul Goodman. Even though he's in the middle of some pretty bad stuff. He's actually a pretty decent guy. Yeah. Other than suggesting to Walt that he needs to send Jesse to Belize, once or twice. Like, he's usually trying to avoid that stuff, and he's not usually advocating there. He's usually, again, he's all about making money. He's like all about the business and about trying to do things the smart way.
Real quick, to go off of what you said, your favorite character was Todd. I gotta say, I like Kristen Ritter because she's smoking hot. Definitely my favorite female of the series. And I was gonna go with Jesse, but because he's like always he's like the second guy in charge after Walt, and maybe not as smart as him, but you can still see he's very persuasive in the way that he deals with people. I guess if that makes sense. But I'd probably have to go with Mike because there's just something about Mike's character. It's like when guys reach a certain age and they've seen enough shit, especially in his line of work before he dies in the show, they're just like, you don't see them smile ever. They just like don't give a fuck. And there's probably a lot of people like that who are like retired FBI or like DEA agents, and they're just like, but I don't know, just and because he has ties to older movies I like. But Mike's character in Breaking Bad. That's why I like him on Better Call Saul too. I'd probably say him though.
Mike is I think again Todd's my favorite character. He's only in season 5 though, so I mean Mike is probably he's probably my favorite character, just holistically throughout the show. But I agree with you. The way he plays that guy is perfect.
Everybody knows people like that in person. Yes. In real life, just the guy who's just like, oh, he's got like a bunch of guns. You don't know what the fuck he did in his past. Maybe you do, but he just like doesn't give a shit most of the time. They're just like.
I mean, I think it's funny because we're talking about like who's good and who's bad. I think I actually let's consider that for a moment in relation to Mike. Yes. Mike works for a drug kingpin, and then later is kind of pushing it too with Walt and Jesse. But Mike definitely had a code. Like Mike wasn't really out to hurt anybody for the sake of doing it. It was like it was a job. Like he would do it. Really, Mike was there to make sure that shit just went right.
For
So it's
him,
like
it
if he
was
had to
completely the
kill
business.
somebody or do
Yeah.
whatever, he would. But he was like all about like trying to keep things moving, you know, and you know, whereas like, you know, Walt was just kind of all over the place and he would just kill people. I think Mike's first inclination was like, you know, why do we need to do that? Like, that's not always the answer, you know.
And I guess that's another way to put it. It's just like it's all business to Mike. Like he's at
Yeah.
that age. He's been through, seen basically everything, and that's just no matter how hard I try or anything I do in life. And when I hit like 40, 45, I'll never be like that ever. Just like the sincerity and like no bullshitting around. If that makes sense. That's why I like his character so much. Do you guys?
Yeah.
Does that? Yeah. Okay.
No, it definitely does. How about you, Jay?
Favorite character? Man, it's like I said. I mean, it's so hard to pick one because they all have their moments where they're extremely unlikable. But yeah, I mean, I probably have to go with Mike, Mike or Saul, but probably Mike.
Yeah,
because you know Mike does have a nice backstory, or nice, you know, about his granddaughter, I believe.
Yeah, it's his granddaughter. Which, and again, I know you're trying to get into Better Call Saul, but you get more backstory on that, which I thought was kind of neat. Like you always just knew it was Mike's granddaughter and whatever. You learn more details about that.
That's cool.
The one thing that I think, and again, Jay, I know you and I disagree on this a little bit, but the one thing I think that needs to be talked about with regards to Breaking Bad is the ending. And I want to talk about it in a couple of parts because there is an episode called Osmandius. It's the third from the last episode. And this is the episode where pretty much like it all comes crashing down for Walt. Like he is found out basically. Like Skyler calls the police. Hank has been murdered by the neo-Nazis, and it's really, you know, I saw many reviews that said this, and I could see, I can see the case for it. That there are many reviews that said like in one universe that might have just been the final episode of Breaking Bad. That this is it. This is the end. And so a lot of people treat the two remaining episodes of Breaking Bad as kind of like an enhanced epilogue for the show. But I think it's worth saying that Osmandius, you know, really was the show that, you know, when you start Breaking Bad, you know, you invariably think like, oh man, like what's going to happen if he gets caught, or like what happens when everybody finds out. I mean, that episode I think delivered on that promise so well. I mean, the scene in the house where like Walt and Skyler are wrestling, and then the cops are coming. Just that whole sequence is like traumatic. It's a fantastic like hour of TV. You know, I don't know. Again, and Jay, I don't know what you think of that episode in particular, or you Orc, but I've always thought that episode kind of proved out the premise of Breaking Bad. Like they honored the question, like what's going to happen when this all comes crashing down, and I thought they delivered.
Yeah, I've thought about it, and you know, I watched a good bit of the final season earlier today, and I really liked the robot gun thing in the trunk of the car.
Yes.
I think that is super cool. But
there were some people who complained about that. That thought that was
sure.
maybe too much. Like Walt wouldn't do, like he wouldn't be able to figure that out. But I'll be honest, I was along for the ride. I thought it fit.
Well,
Yeah, I agree.
It's not in the last episode, but I think it may be in the second to last, where Walt goes and sees his former partner, and I believe his girlfriend as well.
Well, that's the last episode.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was a little bit of closure there.
Well, that was, you know, when you like hear interviews with with like Vince Gilligan, according to him, that was the most complicated scene of the whole finale to develop. Not the stuff with the Nazis, not Jesse, not any of that, but that scene was the toughest because that was the scene where Walt makes good on his mission. Basically, the whole show, again, even though it was about so many other things, and he even admits as much to Skyler later in that episode, but his whole mission was to provide for his family, to provide for his kids. And it was that scene where he secures their future. that was when he did it. And there was just a lot of thinking and planning and working out how, from like a plotting perspective, like they were going to position it to get it to happen. But I agree with you that scene was great, and especially the red dots that appear on them.
Oh,
And
wow, yeah.
Oh,
and
they're,
then
they're, the, like,
they're laser pointers, right?
yeah, laser pointers or whatever it was.
It's not even like, snipers or whatever it's
Right.
supposed to be.
Right.
They're in the fancy house, and they're just like, what the hell is this? They're just
Is
like,
Badger one of the people that's there? Is Badger one of the ones with the laser pointer?
It's Badger and his buddy. I forget the other guy's name.
hang on. There's a bunch of
Badger's my favorite character. How about that?
Badger, yeah.
There's a bunch of.
Well, in that case, Bill Burr is my favorite character. Saul's one of Saul's henchmen. I think Bill Burr is great because I like how he just starts appearing everywhere, like always like dressed up like a repairman or dressed up like somebody else, like doing all this like nefarious shit. Before
we get to like the last episode and close out here probably pretty soon, there's so many great episodes. There's so many great parts in the series. But while you were talking about that, who's the guy? Badger? Who's the guy who get busted on the park bench with that skinny guy?
I think that's
like a crackdown?
I think that's Badger.
Yeah.
In fact, Badger, I think, is the reason why Saul was necessary. Because they were using Badger and his friend to deal what they were making. And then Badger got busted and they needed to get him out. And so they found all the Better Call Saul ads. And they went and got him. But anyway, I'm sorry.
That crackdown, that like when that little skinny dude who's been in other stuff, I think he was in like, what's that movie from like 2000, 2001? I can't remember. But anyway, he's just sitting on the park bench and then Badger's like, are you like undercover or like, are you wired or something? He's like, no, man, no, I'm fine. I'm good. And he's just like lying to him the whole entire time. And the cops are just waiting there in the van. That had me rolling. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, the Badger, Badger definitely added some levity to the series. But those, like, I'll be honest, the episode before the finale, the one with Jesus, I just cannot. Robert Forrester. Like Robert Forrester. First off, like what a coup, like a coup that they got him. And nobody knew. Like when Robert Forrester disappears in that episode, I'm like, holy shit! Like how is it how do we not know he's in this? And he played a great role, and that entire episode, again, it's really just predominantly it's Walt, but you start to see like Skylar's life is like complete hell, and Marie's life is hell, and to me, like I always thought that was a really strong episode. It was also notable too because it has the Breaking Bad theme actually in the episode at the end. Like when Walt goes to the bar and like he's basically made it like he's going back, like they play the Breaking Bad theme kind of like he's coming. You can always get me with theme music, man. Like the thing that pisses me off so much about like TV and movies and cartoons now is that they don't use theme music. Like, they don't hit you over the head with it like they used to. Like if you'd watch like old episodes of like the Ghostbusters, every time they did anything, the Ghostbusters theme would like kick in. They'd start kicking some ass. The Ninja Turtles, it was the same thing.
Like everywhere you go.
Well, it's funny you're joking about that, but they would always like that music, like the lovey-dovey music would always kick in when they were like giving the lesson at the end. So sort of. But I'm just saying,
like, don't smoke crack.
Yeah, I'm just saying when they pulled out the Breaking Bad theme in the episode, like I just thought, like, yeah, Walt's coming back. In the end of but the very end, I always thought like obviously the scene with Skylar is a real highlight, and even just the framing of the shot. Where it's like you think Skylar's alone in the room and the camera just like slightly moves over and he was behind the pillar from the camera's perspective. And that's where he gives her the whole speech about, I did it for me. I was really good at it. I enjoyed it, that kind of thing. Which I thought, that kind of sums up the show too. Like you kind of got the impression that, once Walt found that thing in his life that he was really good at. It just happened to be cooking meth. No, but I think when you talk about like the end, you talk about how he saves Jesse. I don't what I've in interviews and just various things, and even when you watch it, to me, it's not really apparent that he ever planned to save Jesse. But I think, was it The Searchers? There's a movie that Vince Gilligan has referenced where like the whole movie is about, I think it's like John Wayne is like after some woman or something.
Like that is The Searchers.
And he's after her the whole time. He's gonna get her, and then like at the end, it's like she's in trouble. He's got to like fight all these other guys, and instead he saves her. And they had that same idea with Walt, that like after all this time, even though like the bad blood that had happened, it's like when he still, and especially once he saw what they did to him, he was there, like he saved him. Like it wasn't about, like he kind of forgot all that, and it's like he released Jesse, and that kind of summed that up. Like I thought that was a sweet moment. Again, Jesse didn't. I don't know that Jesse appreciated it necessarily, but I think it gave Walt closure in that moment.
Yeah. I don't know. It's really probably not a way of doing that that's going to be 100% satisfying. But I mean, obviously, I'm on the other end. Most people seem to really enjoy it. So
yeah.
I mean, I guess it's nice.
We need the diversity of opinion here, Jay. We can't have everybody saying the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems to be relatively universal that that was a great ending to the show. It's not that I didn't enjoy it at all. It was just it felt like it was unfulfilling. I guess maybe the right word. It just I don't know.
I thought it was good. He dies in his what basically made him, and then eventually broke him in the lab.
Yeah,
and then that was good, but I wanted more. Like I'm still waiting for Breaking Bitch with Jesse.
Well, that's what I mean. That was their whole idea, though, Orc, is they wanted to. They didn't want to. I think they've said like we probably could have done like another season or two, but it kind of became a question of how. You don't want to like be like, oh God, that show's still on. You want people like
Exactly.
you're saying, like you want more.
Exactly.
And by the way, and I forgot to mention this when we were transitioning between season 4 and 5. We almost didn't even get a season 5. AMC was cheaping out. Like season 4 might have been the last season of Breaking Bad. Like there was this whole big payment thing between AMC and Breaking Bad. And that was another reason I think why the seasons got split up, is I think it was a budget thing. We talked about this before when I was railing against the Walking Dead people. I think AMC, like they get cheap about this stuff. Even though the damn last episode of Breaking Bad, which I watched live that night, had like it was maybe like 40 minutes of episode and 30 minutes of commercials. It was insane. Every time anything happened, we went to another commercial break. And God damn it, there was this stupid show AMC was trying to promote. What the hell was it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Like, I literally vowed that day. It's like, I am never going to watch this show.
I know exactly what it is. Low Winter Sun.
Low Winter Sun. Thank you.
God.
I was like, I am not watching this strictly because they keep trying to beat me over the head with it. I am doing it out of spite. Maybe it's a good show.
Coming up next, Low Winter Sun. And everyone's on their couch at home going, fuck that. Just get back to the show.
Right. It's like, I could give two shits, man. Why don't we finish this really great show that we've got going on here? God.
I remember that. I remember.
And then Low Winter Sun got canceled after a season because it blew.
It had the dude from Walking Dead in it, Lenny James.
Yeah, Lenny James was in it, yeah.
Huh. Must have been what he did before he made his comeback with the Bo Staff.
I mean, I'm sure they always plan to bring him back, and since they do half seasons and stuff, they probably could have fit him in. But yeah, I'm sure that that show being canceled made that a lot easier.
For the last 2 seasons of Breaking Bad, though, that was my Sunday night. I'd do shit during the day, and night would come along. I'd watch like the last week's episode, then I'd watch the current episode, and then I'd skip whatever stupid shit they had on, and then I'd watch Comic Book Men.
Oh yeah, Comic Book Men, yeah. but that final again, I don't know, Jay. because I've seen unfulfilling like series finales, and
Sure.
I just thought, as well as a show, they did as good of a job as any show I'd seen had in their final episode.
Yeah,
like there wasn't really any, to me, there wasn't really any dangling thread that needed to be like, it's like, oh man, but they didn't do this or they didn't do this. It all felt like it came full circle. You know, even though Jesse, like our last shot of Jesse is him driving out finally free in the night, I don't know that I have any desire to know necessarily what happens next. Although potentially there's a way to get him in like Better Call Saul in the future scenes. But
yeah, I would imagine his dollar amount has probably gone down significantly.
Yeah, he hasn't. Well, no, so he did what, Need for Speed. He did the movie Need for Speed, and then he's been on a show on Hulu, the one about the cult. Yeah, The Path. There you go.
That's what I thought you were going to say. You see him driving off into Need for Speed. That's what I thought you were going to say at the end of the episode.
That's funny. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I don't know. I was satisfied, and I thought that it did well. That's why when they started talking about doing like a Better Call Saul spinoff, I was, well, originally when they were talking about it, it was being talked about as just like a half-hour comedy. And I'm not even kidding. These are some of the initial, try and dig up some of the old, like, you know, do some internet sleuthing. I'm pretty sure they didn't really know what it was going to be at first. And that was one idea. And I was kind of like, on the one hand, I think that might have been okay because you know, you can't do Breaking Bad again. You'd have to make it different. And so if you did that, that would certainly be different, but I just don't know if it would be good. And instead, you know, they ultimately settled on, you know, hour-long drama, maybe dramedy.
No real surprise there.
But I mean, but I don't know. I Better Call Saul to me is Better Call Saul is a worthy spinoff of Breaking Bad, the way Frasier is a worthy spinoff of Cheers. Okay. Like it does what it needs to. Like I don't miss if anything, I just want to watch Breaking Bad like after I'm done, you know, once Better Call Saul's done, I'd like to watch Breaking Bad just like to connect the stories. But it does a really good job. It's got a fleshed out main character. It's built a very interesting world. And you know, I don't know that they could have done a better job. I mean, Vince Gilligan, I mean, that guy's a pro. You know, when he's done with this, I mean, hell, he could just go ahead and retire. And I'm not advocating that. I hope he should be out there creating, making new stuff. I'll watch it, but you know, he's done a really good iconic show, and he's made a follow-up to it that's about as good. You know, Cameron, I knew you were going to join because we're getting ready to wind down here, I think.
No, I got to say this too. I mean, Lynch is a badass. I'll give him that. But Breaking Bad was the first show where it was like, okay, this is how you write a movie or a show. Because it's so well written. You were always on the edge of your seat. Everything came together eventually. And it was just like, I mean, I didn't even know what the fuck TV was for 10 years because I didn't even watch it. Yeah. I was just online doing stuff.
We're currently discussing Breaking Bad, Cameron, or as I like to call it, the 5-season long the advertisement for the Pontiac Aztec.
Oh, yeah. And the pizza throwing contest, too.
Oh, my God. Dude, there was an article that came out just this year. It was either this year or late last year where the guy who lives in that house like basically like put a plea out in the newspaper, stop throwing pizzas on my roof.
Oh, that's hilarious.
There are like people go and just throw pizzas on the poor guy's roof. Which I think is pretty funny.
I just have one question to ask you guys before you guys get off. I would need to make sure that when you invite me onto this, I'm not being invited onto a poser show here. Is it Roadhouse or is it Big Bang Bar? Let's
Bang Bang Bar. It's absolutely the Roadhouse.
Thank you. All right. See. All right. I have been getting like hate mail like all week long because I told people it's the Roadhouse and they're like, it's whatever you want it to be.
I've never, and again,
They're calling you a poser.
we're jumping here, but I have never referred to it as anything but the Roadhouse. Even though always the sign you see says Bang Bang Bar, I'm not sure I even actually read that sign, like consciously read it until like, years after I watched Twin Peaks the first couple of times.
So I just call it Jock's Place.
So here's how you know what to call it. Does any character ever in the series or the movie refer to it as the Bang Bang Bar?
No.
Never. When Jock answers the phone in Fire Walk with Me, how does he answer it? Roadhouse.
He says Roadhouse. Roadhouse.
What does it say in the screenplay? Exterior Roadhouse, interior Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Right. And so people are coming back at me saying, well, Showtime's selling it as the Bang Bang, bar t-shirt. It's like, well, yeah, what are they going to call it? The Roadhouse t-shirt with you're going to confuse the idiots out there they want to market to. So
Cameron, I know you're just trying to jump on the hype train here. You just started your show recently, but it's not going to run a quick one by me, buddy. Okay. I'm a dedicated fan. Ask me anything about the show and I guarantee you I won't know a fucking thing, but you know what?
No, I just think it's absolutely hilarious that I've been because I've maintained that it's the Roadhouse, and because I've had people come at me saying that like, well, it's the Bang Bang Bar and that's just what it is, and you just need to deal with it. You need to get with the program and all that type of thing. And I'm like, well, this is what I've always referred to it as, and that's how I'm always going to refer to it as. And it's just been turned. I mean, forget about the mysteries of the Black Lodge, man. Twin Peaks fans want to take me down over.
Why does it matter?
I just think every morning I get on YouTube, I just read the comments of like, it's the Bang Bang Bar, you idiot. So, well,
I'll be honest. I don't. Truthfully, Jay, it doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. It doesn't. Why it does sort of matter, however, in a small way, is because Cameron's overall point is trying to identify like the poser Twin Peaks reviewers, like people that are just jumping on the Twin Peaks hype train because it's out now, but aren't actually Twin Peaks fans. It's not the Bang Bang Bar. If you know anything about Twin Peaks, it's the Roadhouse. So
I've never even thought of it as anything with the Roadhouse.
That's exactly right, and maybe it's because every damn character on the show has only ever referred to it as the Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't remember that it was written in the script as the Roadhouse. I thought it actually might have said Bang Bang Bar there, but there you go. It's even in the written script.
I even flashed the script on my show, like, see, and it's absolutely hilarious just seeing everybody getting all worked up about something that is so ridiculous, but it's just.
Let me see if I can get David Lynch on the line here. See what he has to say. He can
I am enjoying a beautiful rosé.
That was awesome.
Well, I mean, just real quick. I mean, I didn't hear it. Did you guys enjoy episode 6?
I did.
We did.
Okay.
We did. We talked. Our approach now, Cameron, is that because the episodes sort of defy narrative sense, we have to walk through the different stories that are picked up on in that particular installment. So, we started with Dougie Coop, we went to Albert and Diane, and we did, that's the only way to do it, I think, because otherwise we kind of lose control to some extent.
There's a couple of things. One, did you guys hear the episode titles for
yes. I saw them. They were released.
I didn't look because I didn't want anything to be spoiled.
There's nothing that can be spoiled,
but
it's just exciting stuff to see. And then the other thing is a point you made last week, which is every once in a while you hear things, Eric, and then like you have to like process it and try to figure out like, because last week you said you don't look at them as episodes, you look at them as parts.
Yeah, or installments.
And Mark Frost and David Lynch have come out now and said they don't look at them as episodes, they look at them as parts because it was filmed as one big movie.
Right.
But and I'm not saying anyone's wrong or right about this, but the way I look at it is I understand that, but I also understand that every new part begins with an opening credits and an ending credits.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't think anyone's wrong for referring to them as episodes either. So.
Oh no, again, like I had joked, I think when you were on the last episode, that if there's one thing that makes for a really good internet video, it's arguing over definitions. I only bring it up because I think sometimes applying episode analysis logic,
right?
It doesn't you can't do that. Because if you're applying like the standards of how you would review a TV show to this, you're going to come up saying all of them are terrible. Right. And I don't think they are terrible. You kind of have to recalibrate what you're seeing, because what you're being seen are but pieces of a larger whole.
But I would argue the same thing about Breaking Bad, about Fargo, about all this, because there's lots of things on YouTube where they do episode breakdowns, or after Buzz TV, they do like after shows where they discuss the whole episode, and sometimes those episodes are longer than the episode itself, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, is like I've always maintained, is like, how can you really critique or review an episode of anything until the season is over and you can look at the whole story? Because a lot of these are I mean, forget about Twin Peaks being shot as one movie. I mean, Fargo is conceived as one long story, too. And so it's funny for me when I see people, do like an episode 3 breakdown, because it's like, by episode 12, you might look at episode 3 and think it's masterpiece compared to, because of where it went, and you didn't realize where it was going at the time,
Well, I mean, that's certainly true.
Yeah.
But to me, the difference would be even in those shows, which are highly serialized, and there are some Breaking Bad episodes that it's like picks up the moment the previous episode ended and then ends like right in the middle of an action that the subsequent episode picks up on. But even so, the structure of the episodes are such that there really is a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning could be technically in the middle of something else that we'd already previously seen, but there is still like a narrative flow. Even the way the scripts are written, they're like, what's a TV? Is it 5 acts? Is it 4 acts? Maybe cable's different.
I believe it's 5 acts for TV.
5 acts. They still have 5 acts. And so there's still a structure built into it. I mean, with this, we know there is a structure. Again, whatever structure David Lynch and Mark Frost had on that big giant script, there was a structure there. And actually, one thing we did talk about, Cameron, I was talking to Jay and Ork about this, is that, when Kyle MacLachlan read the script, when the head of Showtime read the script, what they read was like one long story. What we are seeing are those stories and plots and everything kind of broken up, perhaps in a different way than they evolved through the story of the script. And so, again, even from that perspective, I just think it's sort of hard, and it's a way of me trying to defend the show in some sense, because what I'm saying, because like there's some people who are jumping all over the show, and I'm just trying to say, you can't apply TV logic to this because you're not seeing a TV episode. So if you're trying to review this like, you're reviewing, the latest episode of, According to Jim, okay, it's gonna look terrible, but that's not what it is.
But Jim Belushi is in both, so just so you know,
he is in both. I think that's why I use that reference. But in any event, I think we're coming up on the end. And so before I let everybody go, Jay, did you? Well, you're chewing. Maybe I can pass it over to Ork.
It's fucking raw.
Do you guys have any final thoughts before we depart?
I need to stop slacking and stop my bitching and watch Better Call Saul. Also need to catch up because I'm way fucking behind on Twin Peaks, but I don't know. I can only meme so much in one day, but you can only hype ride train so hard. So, but yeah.
Can I just add one thing? I've been called an elitist by several people today on YouTube, and I don't think I'm an elitist at all. I welcome anybody who joins Twin Peaks or any TV show, regardless of when they saw it. But yes, I do think that if you were someone who watched the show when it was originally on, doesn't make you a better fan. But it definitely puts you in context. It definitely puts you in context.
But I called you that.
What?
I'm just joking.
How many subscribers you guys got now on this show?
I think when I last looked, it was like 30. It could be maybe a little more now.
Good.
I thought it was 30.
Good. I gave you like 11, I think.
I think so. Yeah, there was a couple of people who it's looked like they came from your channel because they're kind of like, oh man, hey, I liked you over there. This is great. I'm glad you got a video.
No,
so yeah,
how I see it is you love a show and you like the director a lot too, or the show writer, and you're what the fuck was I gonna say? I just lost my train of thought. You love the show and you've been a dedicated fan for a long time. It happened to come back, and you're not a complete fucking dumbass. Like there are a lot of people are.
I was with you, York, and
I'm a warrior too with a keyboard, but so is fucking everybody and their mom.
Yeah. Well, the next show that needs to come back, my 2 nominees for shows that need to come back and just end, not like go on forever, but just have at least an ending. We need to end My So-Called Life, They never ended that. And we need, I don't care if it's Netflix, I don't care where it is, but we need to end Married with Children. It never had an ending. It got canceled. All those actors are still working. Bring them back for a final like 6 episode.
So aren't they talking about that?
If they
I swear
are,
I've heard about that.
God bless America, because the Bundys need to come back.
I would swear I've heard that they're talking about bringing that back and kind of rebooting it. Well, not rebooting it. It would be like a continuation of the original show, but it would basically follow Bud and his wife. And it would, you know, provide opportunities for.
We got that with Vacation. No, I don't want to see that.
Well, I don't know that it's going to happen, but I know they've talked about it, and that's an idea that's been thrown around.
When I imagine, what is his name, Ed O'Neill?
Yeah.
I picture like he's jumping into like a vat of gold coins, like Uncle Scrooge. He's like filthy rich, man. He's not going to come back and do that.
No, all I want is to see an opening shot of the camera backing up and seeing Al Bundy still in the shoe store with a fat woman in the chair, and then him coming home. Peg, fat woman came in the store today. That's it. I'll be like just falling off the couch laughing that he's still there after 20 years.
And now there's Viagra and stuff. So like,
but
I'm actually jealous.
But it needs to come. Listen, the main reason why it needs to come back, I know you guys need to go, but the main reason why it needs to come back is I want to see Jefferson and Al doing no ma'am in this day and age of Twitter and SJWs. I mean, it would be just going crazy.
And then Al has a Biggins app on his phone.
Yeah. I think we could put that on Spike, right? I think that would go on the Spike network. Isn't that their whole deal?
Fuck it. We could put it on Animal Planet. None of this shit matters anymore.
Yeah.
Remember when before it was Honey Boo Boo, right? It was like wasn't it like the education? What was it? The educational network?
It's TLC, yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing educational on there anymore.
What are you learning there? Where not to go?
So
shitty meals when you don't have any food in the house.
So Jay, what in addition to your thoughts on the Married with Children reboot, what are your final thoughts about the week's shows?
Oh, man, it's great. I wanted to mention this earlier, but I've been listening to the Bret Easton Ellis podcast.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Really interesting stuff. I'd highly recommend it to everyone. But he had a great quote on there when he was talking about television. He said, "Drowning in content" was the phrase he used, which I thought really applies to what we're doing here because, you know, I mean, how often do you have someone recommend a show that you've never even heard of? You know, I mean, it's just so much stuff out there, and it's no time for it. I mean, like I've been playing this damn Friday the 13th game so much, I haven't had a chance to watch much of anything, which is why I haven't gotten to your video yet. Cameron.
Well, I'll be honest. That's why. I'm pretty sure that's why I didn't watch this week's Better Call Saul, because I played with you guys last night, which, by the way, was a lot of fun. The Friday 13th game is a blast when it works and when you're playing with people who don't team kill you. But, it's true. It's like you only have so much time. And the show, it's weird. Like, I think the shows that have really fallen into that category for me is all the stuff on Amazon. Amazon's got some good stuff, like The Man in the High Tower. I always hear great stuff about that. I don't know, with everything else I'm watching, I just can't quite pull myself to watch it.
That gives me a good opportunity.
That's supposed to be good too. There's so much shit.
I wanted to recommend The Hand of God, which Ron Perlman stars. That just got a second season. I haven't watched the second season yet, but the first season's really good. And also Sneaky Pete with Giovanna Ribisi.
That one I wanted to jump on because it also has Marge from Justified season 2. Mags Bennett rather.
Have you heard anything about budding prospects?
About what?
Budding prospects.
Budding.
In the 1970s, it's about a bunch of kids who grow weed. I think it's on Amazon. It's either there's just a pilot or there's one season out. But Jay, you might know what I'm talking about.
I don't.
Okay, never mind.
But Bryan Cranston is the main villain on that show. On
Sneaky Pete.
On Sneaky Pete. So.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so you would probably enjoy that.
What? Yeah, and he's the bad guy in the Power Rangers movie too.
Oh wow!
No, he's the good guy. He's Zordon.
Oh, Zordon, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, but I'm the same way because it's like.
Speaking of my rant about they don't use theme songs, I was like digging around. Like they only play the Power Rangers theme in that movie like one time.
Oh, fuck that.
If you watch an episode of the series, you hear the theme like 15 damn times. Like if you're gonna make a Power Rangers movie,
Because
you
they're
need to
not
be hit over the head with the theme.
They're not making the movie for the fans. They're making it for newbies. They were hoping for a 7-picture series.
Yeah.
Fucking
That's
noobs.
gross.
Rita isn't fat. I'm not going. Fuck that shit.
Rita wasn't fat in the show. Oh, well, hold on. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. What kind of fan are you, Bruce?
That
Fucking bandwagon piece of shit. Jesus.
Wow.
The Rita Repulsa being fat. Well, hold on, Cameron. Is there anything you would like to take us out on?
No. I think Orc just drained the whole show.
No. Well,
we always want to go out on our best content, so I'm glad we got Rita Repulsa being fat.
I don't get to talk as much as Jay, but with there's so many memes with streaming. You got TV, movies, single-player games, multiplayer games, and I don't even read because I'm a dumbass. Besides blogs and Reddit.
Well,
so,
do you watch Game of Thrones? Because when Game of Thrones kicks back off, you can be damn sure we'll be talking about it. If you watch that, that'll be part of this.
Jay said at one point he'd maybe take HBO over Netflix entirely. Isn't that what you said, Jay? Roughly?
I believe so. I'd stick by that.
And there's just so much shit on HBO itself. Like, I thought Netflix was stacked. Like, I haven't seen any Game of Thrones at all.
Well, I think the difference is I think HBO has more quality content. Like, Netflix has a ton of content, but maybe, I'm being generous, 50% of it is worth watching. With HBO, most of it is worth watching.
Showtime doesn't have anything worth watching.
I just want
I don't know that I would say that. I mean, I think they've got good shows. They're just not quite... Again, they're not as good as some of the stuff you find.
They don't have the budget that HBO has.
Yeah, because like that show with
Dexter sucks.
Oh shit, Jay likes Dexter.
No, after season 4.
Sure.
Oh wow.
I agree. I agree.
What's the show about the hitman starring
Ray Donovan?
Ray Donovan. Yeah, my parents watch that show. They think it's really good. I haven't gotten into it.
Showtime is
that's
owned
pretty
by
good.
CBS, and CBS caters to older people.
But there's like sex and violence
revenue,
and shit in that. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but it's not HBO.
I know.
I mean, all Showtime has is Oliver Stone interviewing Putin. So,
well, hold on. I would hold up Homeland against anything on HBO. I genuinely.
One Showtime show I really like, even though I've only seen 3 episodes, is Shameless. I love that show. That's really dark, fucked up humor, but it's hilarious. Though I love it.
Yeah.
But if you were to say to me, are you going to pay for Showtime or are you going to pay for HBO? It's HBO all the way, and Showtime's gone the moment Twin Peaks is over. See ya.
I don't know, because Netflix has a decent movie selection, and they have all the original their TV shows. Then they have network TV shows from a bunch of networks, and then they have stand-up comedy, which I like a lot. Which HBO has, but Netflix is destroying HBO and stand-up comedy.
When that new season of Ray Donovan starts, you're going to be itching to pay that $9.99 a month.
And on that note, I think we've covered just about all we can cover this week. I think hopefully we'll be back next week talking about Twin Peaks Part 7. Hopefully we'll all be very excited because Dale Cooper will finally be back and all will be right with the world. And
next week,
we're going Dougie all the way to episode 12 at least.
Oh my god!
On Titan. Oh wait, anime sucks dick, and so does manga. Never mind.
Oh, come on, dude.
Dude, fuck that shit. Fuck anime.
Anyway,
I'm not a weeb. I'm not a weeaboo.
Thank you, Orc, for your attendance today.
Always make it go pop. No, I'm just kidding.
Always make it very powerful. Jay, thank you very much. Appreciate the insight. Cameron, thank you for the cameo at the end. A little bit like Samuel Jackson, I think, in Iron Man. You teasing us for what's to come in the future.
No, we've already created the Avenger Initiative. That's over there on his channel. So
okay. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I do appreciate it, and I appreciate anybody who watched with us, enjoys it. Please subscribe, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.